Nice. I'm actually a Michigan State fan, but I was born in Ypsilanti, right behind the stadium in Ann Arbor. All right, we're going to get it rolling here in a minute, guys. Letting everybody sign in. Got somebody from Turkey on her. Very cool. The Bears. British Columbia. That's good Bigfoot territory up there, Miss Aria. Yeah, Izzo's the man, Rick. I went to his camp years ago. We got a good squad this year. Utah. Yeah, Izzo's great. He's great. New York City. We were just in the city about a week and a half ago to see Jesse Itzler's event. That was awesome too, dude, by the way. Vanilla Ice came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. Definitely worth going to see.
What did he open up for him?
No, he had his wife came out.
Oh, nice.
Right. So he has a DJ that DJ'd his wedding is there. Then his wife, Sarah, who created Spanx, she came out, gave an intro. Then Dougie Fresh came out.
Oh, nice.
Performed for like 20 minutes. And then Jesse came out and he had this cool story about Vanilla Ice from back in the day when they were, you know, the only two white rappers. And it was funny how he set it up. And he's like, he didn't forget to come tonight, though. And then he came out and performed. Really cool. And then Jesse, it's really neat, though, because he, you know, gives his talk and his DJ starts mixing in music at certain points. So really well done. So we got Denmark, Minnesota, Sussex County, Delaware. All right. So let's get into it. We're going to be here for quite a while tonight. Hopefully you can stay for the, what's up, Gabe? Stay for the whole thing. There's going to be a lot of information. We'll see if we can get through it all. Got my great friend BK here, and we'll have some other special guests on. So it's going to be fun. First thing I'm going to have you do to wake up your brain, and you could type into chat, and this has nothing to do with your intelligence. The 4 states that begin with the letter I. So that's going to be a simple one. The 4 states that begin with the letter I. Let's see, you guys type them in the chat. See if we can get them. Iowa. 4 states. Indiana, Illinois. What's going on, guys? Type in the chat over here. All right, so we got Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Idaho. Perfect. Okay, next one. And this is getting your brain going. All the states, I'm not going to tell you how many there are this time, that begin with the letter N. See if you can come up with them. So we're working on some memory recall here. There's different types of memory, and if you don't work on it, you lose it. But all the states that begin with the letter N. N as in no, I'm sorry, guys, not M. We'll do that next. We've got Nebraska. Let's see what these guys got. We've got any back here. Australia, that's awesome. So let's see. North Dakota, North Carolina, New Hampshire, New Mexico. There's a lot of news. Nebraska, New York. So we actually have, there we go, Nevada. So you got New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Nebraska, New Mexico, Nevada. And final one, the states that begin with, some of you put that in there already, M, as in Mary. Can you list all the states that begin with M? So we got Michigan, Montana, Maine, Mississippi, Maryland, Minnesota. Let's see if we got them all. We got Montana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts. That's one that people forget a lot. Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, and Missouri. So I like to do that, games like that at the beginning, guys. Gets your brain going, right? You have different parts of your memory, because I guarantee you, if you're from the United States, you can name all 50 states. You know all 50 states. But recalling them, even if you're writing them down, many people are going to struggle with because they're not working on the memory. You got to think of your memory as a muscle. So what we're going to be going over tonight is really how you can make any type of transformation you want in your life. So if you knew what controlled all your actions and how to direct that piece of technology, there's really nothing that you cannot achieve, right? There's nothing that you cannot achieve. We're going to be going over that tonight, going to be breaking down myths, barriers, lies that you've been told, and then we'll make sure we answer all your questions. So we got fallacies in the, as far as the agenda, fallacies in the mainstream, the fake fitness expert realm. We're going to start with that. We got fallacies with fasting. There's a lot of misconceptions with fasting out there, and there's a lot of people that are teaching it that are not teaching it correctly, in my opinion. And then we have mind mapping, which is a huge component of success with this or anything you want to do. And we're going to tell you how to fast at the end. We'll have some special guests on. As I said, my good friend BK is here. He's been on the journey with me for a long time. So it's going to be really good to pick his brain and get some insights. So let's start with, guys. If you've dieted before, just kind of put a thumbs up in the chat. If you've done a diet. Okay, we got a bunch of thumbs up over here in the VIP. If you've done a diet, kind of put it in the chat. So I will be shocked if somebody has not dieted before. Right, so we got all these thumbs going up. Now, the second part of that, guys, type a Y if it worked, and an N if it did not work. So we got a lot of no's over there. Somebody said yes, it's flying by. No, no, yes, no. Okay, so John says yes, it worked. Now, here's the deal with that. If it worked, that means you kept the results from it. So just think if that changes your definition of whether or not it worked. My definition, as a coach of helping somebody is a transformation where the change is permanent. And there's a lot of reasons why the typical diet does not work, both physiological, because of the body, but many of those reasons are also because of the brain. And we'll talk about that when we get to mind map. What about you, BK? Have you dieted before?
Of course, yeah. As a wrestler, we've dabbled into cutting weight quite a bit.
Yeah, and you guys cut fast.
Cut real fast.
Yeah.
Wish I would have known this approach a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. I actually have one of the guys that's in the coaching group. He was a professional rugby player. And he's probably about 60 now. And he said the same thing yesterday. He goes, man, if I knew this when I was playing. Because he played at a really high level for years. But he says it's the best he's ever felt. So you have the extremes of dieting, like BK's done with wrestling, where what's the most you cut in a short period of time, weight-wise?
Well, I think that was when I was fighting, was the most weight that I've ever cut.
So after wrestling, doing
After
MMA.
wrestling, and the cage fighting, yeah.
And how much was that?
16 pounds in almost 3 days.
16 pounds in 3 days.
Well, we did the whole water cut.
Yeah.
Stacking up with water and then taking it down and chewing on ice cubes.
Yeah. Yeah, that brings up a good point because I don't think I actually had it in the notes, but the water, a lot of people have that question, water weight or fat loss.
I think that's like the old bodybuilding trick too.
Yeah, yeah.
Is get as much water as you
try
as can and then start pulling back on and be dry.
Yeah.
And you're thinking if you're trying to have a performance at high levels and then you're dehydrated, it just kind of makes no sense at this point. Yeah.
Very tough, yeah. And with the bodybuilding, you're trying to get the the theory is, right, get the water from under the skin and into the muscle. So it's, it's a crapshoot. I was, as I kept competing, I just realized, look, if you're in shape, you're in shape. Don't do anything fancy at the end, because you don't know what's gonna, how the body's gonna react. And I remember even hearing stories about Ronnie Coleman and some of those guys who had done it multiple times. And they go do the same thing before the Olympia, and it didn't work that time.
Yeah.
Now they're retaining. So, weight cuts we can talk about tonight for sure. So let's get into some of the mainstream, right? The mainstream advices, as Schwarzenegger says, about what you're supposed to do with dieting, right? So a lot of you said that you've dieted, but it did not work before. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I kind of paint the picture of the common enemy for us, which is the fake fitness expert. And you really have two different segments of this. You got the PhD fake fitness experts that usually are the worst because they're so invested into their education and that they refuse to open their mind and examine anything else. Right? Everything has to go back to a study with them. And then you got now on social media, all the fake fitness expert influencers. And I can tell you guys, when I went out to San Diego a few years ago, some good guys, but it was fitness guys from online. And man, some of these guys are portraying themselves to you guys as experts. Now, first of all, in the workout, which was maybe a level 5 out of 10 workout that I would normally do, smoke, dude, puking, all this stuff. Then you go out to eat, and they're freaking counting their calories. They could have half a potato. I'm like, what are you guys doing? But this is what's out there, right? These are the type of people that are teaching people. But both of them, when it comes to diet, what would you say, BK, is their main strategy? If you were a fake fitness expert, and I can think we did the same thing, right? But what's the most common advice the fake fitness expert side is going to give people?
It's the old bodybuilding approach, the macros and the calories.
Yeah.
It's immediate results. They're trying to get you to drop fast.
Yeah. Take it way down.
Take your way down, which implies that you have to do a lot of extra work.
Yes.
Which then implies that it's really not that sustainable in the long run. It works because somebody stays motivated for the first week, maybe 10 days.
Yeah.
Counting calories, getting their breakfast, lunch, dinner, their snacks all Tupperwared up.
Yeah.
And then it starts to fizzle. The motivation starts to fizzle.
Yep.
I've seen.
Totally.
And you and I have both gone down that route.
Big time. Yeah.
And have, had programs like that prior to fasting.
Yeah.
And we've seen clients come and go. And
all the time.
What happens is that the clients actually feel like they're not good enough, like they failed.
Yeah.
When it's really just the process, the system that's
it's the wrong game.
Setting them up for failure.
Yeah. They're playing in the wrong arena.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't know if you've never tried, what we're going to be teaching you tonight. But me and BK did all that. If there's a diet out there, we did it. Right. So it really, the Panda diet, and we'll talk about the word diet later on because very important with the mind and how you perceive things. I only call it the Panda diet because people are familiar with that term, but it's not a diet in any sense of the normal way a diet is referred to. It's a lifestyle. So we start with, before we even go down that rabbit hole, you guys have to really connect the dots with recognizing who is behind all this messaging, right? There's definitely much esoteric knowledge, hidden knowledge that's kept from the public intentionally. So if you guys follow conspiracies like I do, and this one's not even a conspiracy, like you could just flat out look it up, but the organization or the family that started the modern education system, which is based in what's called the Prussian model of education. That whole model is designed so you sit there in a row, don't question authority, take your directives, and become a factory worker. Okay, that same family also developed the modern medical system in the West, right? Early 1900s. And that same family also is behind, because of the medical system and the big pharma tie-ins, the food industry. So I'm talking about the Rockefellers. So if you're eating a traditional diet, and all these diets that the mainstream will push are based in Rockefeller education or nutrition. 3, 4, 5 meals a day, get these certain macros. Now, if and it really is that simple when you trace it back. Put it this way, guys: the establishment does not want you guys to be healthy, right? There's not a lot of money in that for them, and you're going to be much harder to manipulate and control. So that's where it starts. Go back to like the Rockefellers. Okay. Now, if we talk about, well, actually, before we go into the calorie cutting off, when you guys hear the word diet, what comes to your mind? Just type it in the chat. Like, what's the first word that comes to your mind? The first picture that comes to your mind when you think, man, I got to diet again? Meal planning, deprivation.
Anxiety, I seen.
Anxiety.
Restrictive.
Misery.
Die.
Right, yeah, die, the first 3 letters. Right, so this is
short term, no sugar, no good, whack,
all this stuff. Right, so we keep doing these diets. You know, I dieted for years, thinking that the next time would be different. But when we get to the mind map section, one of the main things we'll go over with you really is that your brain will not form a habit around anything it doesn't find pleasurable to do. So think about a diet, right? A typical diet, the way the mainstream, the fake fitness experts refer to it, has a start point and an end point. So if you start down the path of something and your first thought is, man, I cannot wait for this to be over with, you're going down the wrong path. It simply will never work. And also, just recall when I asked you that question, and BK was reading some of them off, I'm looking at the VIP over here, there was a picture that came to your head. Right, you don't have to tell us what that picture is yet, but that's another super important concept with your mind. Pictures. You cannot think without pictures coming to your mind. Every thought is a picture first. So if we look at the dieting road, so you guys have some understanding of this. We cut calories, right? And then to further complicate it, they're going to tell you to play with your macros, right? And I remember giving diets to clients at the gym, bodybuilding type diets. Calories are mapped out, this many grams of protein. So you're giving somebody something that's so complex and so foreign to them. And like you said, many times it didn't work. You know, maybe 10% of the time people would get some type of results. And then as the expert, right, because man, this should work. Either the blame was they're not following it, or man, maybe they got a thyroid issue. You know, whatever ridiculousness came to our mind, but it was really just based in the coach, in that case, myself, and I'm sure BK did the same thing. It was just a lack of knowledge, right? We hadn't figured out what really worked yet. So if you cut calories, right, you have something called your basal metabolic rate. So think of, if you wanted to figure this out real simply, you could do, there's fancy equations, there's machines, like we got machines at the gym that do it. But if you basically, if you're a guy, took your body weight times 10, and for women, typically your body weight times 8. That's going to be what's called your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. And as we go tonight, we'll explain some of these concepts in different ways, because the more you connect the dots and understand this, the more you're going to trust it, the more we're going to teach you, the more you're going to experiment, and then that's going to lead to results. But your BMR, basal metabolic rate, is basically the amount of energy your body would need in terms of calories just to sustain itself while it's laying in bed. Right? No other activity. So for me, if I'm 225. That's 2,250 calories just laying there. Now, when I used to diet, I went as low as 1,300 calories when I was competing. Freaking terrible. Because what happens, for me, it really started in 2004, my first competition. I had a guy that, that's what he taught me. Let's cut your calories really hard for 4 months straight. Now, the problem is, guys, if you've done a diet before, that basal metabolic rate, right, is going to come down to match what you're putting in, if that's your main fuel source, if it's coming in because of the frequency of the eating. So then you get metabolic damage, which for me really manifested in, unless I was eating in a severe deficit, I could not get lean, which was very frustrating because I love to eat. I love to eat and I enjoy food. So you got metabolic damage going on. And I thought I was stuck with that. Did that happen to you or not really?
Oh, yeah.
You had the same type of thing?
It's like a flip of a coin. I always felt it was a flip of a coin if it was going to work or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you find too that, BK, that once you did those hard cuts, that unless you did a hard cut, you couldn't change your body?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. That's
you had to go down that road one more time.
Yeah.
And then you just, for myself personally, it was, like I said, it was throwing a dart and just seeing where it landed. Because sometimes it would hit, sometimes it wouldn't.
Sometimes it wouldn't, yeah.
And it's just how your body's, at least for myself, how it was responding. And at certain times it would respond good. At certain times it would respond different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just so much goes into it, right? The nervous system, stress.
Yeah.
Obviously hormones, which is really the big physiological part that we'll go over tonight. It's about hormones, guys, when you're changing your body. It's not about just external calories. And then when my buddy Jared comes on, he's actually an electrician. So I was referencing him the other day, but he'll give us a quick, interesting take on calories too, because it's just this term that's thrown out there. People don't realize what it is really and what energy is in that sense. What's up, Jason? How you doing, buddy? So we have the calorie deficit, okay? Then they'll have you do the macros. Then they're going to tell you to try to burn, right? They're going to do slow, long-distance cardio. Right, and I wrote, actually the first article I ever wrote, it was like 2009 or 10, that kind of went viral. So this was like in the forums and all that, was about the aerobic fallacy. And when you do slow, long distance cardio, elliptical, treadmill, and trying to burn calories, you actually train your body to become much more efficient at utilizing body fat, which sounds good at first, right? But if your car is more efficient at using fuel, it uses less fuel, not more, right? So we don't want that. We want a good, healthy metabolic rate, and we can certainly fix that. We'll go over that tonight. So they cut your calories, they tell you to burn, right? It's a math equation simply. Now, what happens when you do that, guys? So we said basal metabolic rate comes down, okay? Your main hunger hormone, ghrelin, is going to continue to rise. It's going to keep going up and up and up. And again, this has to do with the frequency of your meals. So hunger's going up, metabolic rate comes down. Now, when metabolic rate's coming down because you're in such a deficit, other systems of your body, your immune system, reproductive system, all these things, right? There's multiple systems in the body. They take a back seat. Your fat storing enzymes get up-regulated, and your fat burning enzymes get down-regulated. So not a good combination. But because your hunger continues to climb, and I don't care how disciplined you are, because I consider myself pretty disciplined. Susie Homemaker just got here. She'll be coming on a little bit too. So no matter how disciplined you are, eventually that hunger gets to a point where you can't withstand it any longer. So then you go back to eating, but you're not eating a regular amount of food. You're eating more food because you've been in this like pseudo-starving state for so long. But basal metabolic rate's way down. Fat-storing enzymes are way activated. So you're going to eat yourself past your starting point. Now, that happened to me multiple times when I developed the metabolic damage. Each time I would compete, I'm talking about bodybuilding. First year I competed at 189. Then the second year, it was 198. And it kept climbing. But the thing in the off season, I would be 10 pounds heavier every off season to the point where I was like 250. I'm like, this is crazy because I had to cut that much more weight. But my body, right, was what the fake fitness experts would tell us would happen with fasting, starvation mode. Well, doing a regular diet is actually how you set up starvation mode, and that's what's going on. So the body would pack on all this fat. Hey, just in case he does that again, let's put on some extra fat, right? It's a vicious cycle.
Can I cut you off really quick?
Go ahead.
What's crazy is when you hear that, and at this time you're quote unquote like a professional, right?
Yeah.
You're living in the gym. You're in this world. So imagine what happens to everybody else that is trying to get in the best shape of their life for a wedding or a certain event.
Yeah.
Right. So they hit that, or they come really close to hitting that if they stick to it, right? Because their mindset or they're disciplined or the willpower gets them through that. But then they stop, right? Because that destination comes. And then what happens to them? Because you're living in that world.
Yeah, you're living, yeah.
You're as a professional and you keep gaining 10, 15 more pounds every off season, which makes it that much harder to then cut back down.
Totally.
So it's very easy for most of these clients to just give up, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like it works and then it doesn't. And then when they get back on the macro count or the calorie count, they have to be so invested in it at that point. And then they have to treat themselves like a professional.
Yeah.
But they're busy mom or dad professionals. They got kids. They're trying to find a way into the weight room, right? And then on top of that, doing this quote unquote diet.
Yeah.
You know, so you start feeling for these people, right?
Yeah.
But with so much noise out there, it's easy to be compassionate for them because it's like, well, at least they're trying something.
Yeah.
You know,
They're
because
doing
that's what
something.
everybody's saying. Let's say how many out of 90% out of the fitness experts are saying this
Yes.
science, right?
Yeah. I'd say
Right?
it's more than that.
More
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
90%,
I'd say
right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then out of those 90%, the first thing out of their mouth is going to be bashing some sort of fasting
Yeah.
because they claim it as starving themselves.
Yeah.
And I hope we're going to get into that part.
Yeah. Totally.
You know,
'Cause
but
it's,
but you got to feel for these people that are going down that route, because if that's the information that they're handed, and it's 5%?
Yeah.
95 out of every 100
At
fitness
least.
experts are saying this, as opposed to just like good food,
Yeah.
you know, clean ingredients, single ingredient food, things like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's deprivation.
You know, just imagine, guys that are listening, he was in this world.
Yeah.
This was not like a second job for him. This was his
Yeah.
this was what he wanted to do. He took everything into consideration to become a successful bodybuilder.
Yeah. Everything. Actually, Susie, come on, because that's a good part for you to. So Susie Homemaker is here. That's a. Yeah. So Susie's gonna be able to give you guys some insight, right? Because it's like BK is saying, I was in the world, but it wasn't. So this is Devin, guys. Susie Homemaker. So you got the VIP guys behind you. All right. So Devin we met after I had stopped competing. Then I went back to compete a few times, which we'll go over that story, when we were kind of newly married. But she was used to seeing me diet all the time, right? She, like BK was saying, she knew the gym was my life. And I always tell people, you know, and again, she didn't say it to be mean, but there was, just to show you guys, right? Like I was struggling with this hard, right? Because I was very disciplined. But do you remember what you said to me the one time with my eating, right? You kind of share it with them.
So, you know, and just to kind of go off of what he was saying is constantly weighing his food, you know, really focusing on just chicken, rice, things like that. And, you know, with watching him, I guess I can use the word obsess. You know, obsess over what he was putting into his body. One of the times we were at Mineral Spas up in New York, and I looked at him when we were in the pool, and I was like, you know, I just feel like for how hard you're working, you should look leaner.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't saying it like in a mean way, like that's not what my intention was.
Yeah.
But just to kind of like shake him out of it. And it really was that line that kind of spiraled to this new avenue for him, So I am happy looking back that I said it the way I said it because it clicked.
Yeah. Well, it clicked in it because I knew it was true, right? You know the truth yourself, but I was lost because the knowledge that again that we had, you know, guys like me and BK, it was like I did it all. Like nothing will work, you know. And you keep thinking there's gonna be a magic thing that you're gonna do, or maybe if I eat more of this type of protein, something's gonna happen. And I remember going out to Charles Poliquin was a big mentor of mine and influence. Taught me a ton about hormones, you know, the biosig,
Oh yeah.
which I actually have in the book, that part. But then day 3 of the seminar, so these are all fit pros that are really good shape, you know, at this seminar. It's probably like 60 people and probably, you know, 2,000 square foot classroom. So I always, you know, I like to learn. I'm a student, you know, first. So I'm sitting in the front taking notes. So the day comes when it's time to actually use the calipers because every site, there's 12 sites in the body and they all correspond with different hormones. He figured out. The guy was brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah, like literally like a genius. And he says, "You come up here." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." I go up. Just take your shirt off. And he proceeded for 30 minutes to just make fun of me, dude. Just completely bash me as far as how I looked physically. And it was just so bizarre, but it was like, but you felt that frustration or that pain because it's like, man, I know I'm more disciplined than probably anybody in that room. And I remember one of the guys the next day, he's like, "What was that about?" He's like, what did you, I said, "I have no idea." He goes, "It's not like you weren't obese or anything, but I was," exactly what Susie was saying, didn't look the part, you know, didn't look the way, you know, I looked in shape, but not for the amount of effort I was putting in. So I was stuck though, right? And we'll kind of go over that story of how that led to the fasting, which was a game changer. And I think that's why most of you are here tonight. So the dieting road, think of that and the metabolic road as different pathways. They're 2 different roads, essentially. The dieting world, guys, the fake fitness expert world, the ones that are going to tell you the only thing that works is cutting calories, which I'll tell you guys in a second, my theory, why you lose weight initially when you diet. And it's not what most people think. But the whole system, BK was saying before, it's based in they're playing in the wrong arena, right? They're playing what's called the simultaneous model of weight loss, which is burn, cut, you should lose, right? So they tell us there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. So if you burn or create a deficit of 3,500 calories a week, you should lose a pound of fat a week, which is a pretty phenomenal rate if you sustain that, right? People don't think it's a lot, but that's 52 pounds of fat a year. But it doesn't work, right? For many reasons. And then they'll say, well, now you got to cut more or you got to burn more. So it's not, the panda diet is based on something called the sequential model. There's certain steps that have to happen before the body fat starts coming off, which are totally sustainable. And then it's also based, the mainstream system, in what's called a tension resolution system. So if you were, you know, if Devin was in the middle, right, and she had a rubber band around her waist, and BK had a rubber band, right, and she's in the middle. So she starts saying, "Man, I'm not feeling well. I'm overweight." So she'll start coming towards me, right, which is dieting, lose weight. Now, the tension, though, towards BK's side is much greater, right? It's like the snapback effect. It's like a pendulum. And then all of a sudden she goes, "Well, I feel better. I lost weight." But his side is hungry. I need to eat. So he goes over there, right? And, oh, man, after a while, not feeling well. I'm getting sick. I'm getting overweight again. Then this one's tighter. And it just keeps going back and forth. And it's crazy because as BK said, like, hopefully, you know, some of you just connect some dots tonight, because once you see how simple this is and you see kind of the lies that you've been taught, it's just so obvious, like the Matrix. Like you can't see it. And it's like, why do people keep doing that? But that's what they know. That's where they're at in their journey. So what do you guys think as far as my theory on why you lose weight with the traditional diet? When you start out, you cut calories. You've all done it before. What do you guys think as far as, what about back here in the VIP? Why do you think you lose weight initially when you diet? Anybody have any ideas? Water loss, potentially. Water weight. We'll go over that because that is a key thing that you need to understand. So there could be some fluid loss. So calorie deficit would probably be the most common answer. The body hasn't adapted. That's part of the reason. Burn more than you take in. But think of this. Insulin is one of your 3 master hormones. When you're eating less in terms of frequency, okay, that's the big one. But if you're eating less overall food in a diet, your body is producing less insulin. Insulin is the most anabolic hormone in the body, which means to store. So when insulin's elevated, you cannot lose body fat. So if you're eating less, you're producing less insulin. And to me, it seems clearly obvious because people will lose initially, boom, and then all the reasons we talked about, it stops, right? What do you think about that?
I think everything with fasting revolves around being insulin sensitive.
Totally, yeah.
At the end of the day, when you look back at the amount of calories that I once tried to eat to gain weight to now eating a specific time because of my insulin sensitivity and the nutrients absorption rate, I don't know what the studies are. I don't think there are any, but I could say that it almost doubles. Because if somebody's eating 3 or 4 times a day, the same amount of calories that I'm eating, but they're using the bathroom how many times?
Yeah.
And that was like my number one thing when I first started fasting is I noticed that I only had 1 bowel movement a day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's waste, right? At the end of the day, that's waste.
Waste.
So how much of the food that I was taking in prior to fasting was just wasted, quote unquote, calories or energy, right?
Yeah.
Because of insulin sensitivity. If you think about it, if you look up insulin sensitivity versus insulin resistance, there's a huge degree of most disease starts with the insulin resistance. And why does it do that?
Every disease,
You know, and
totally.
and we maybe get into that methylene system and how nutrient absorption is such a huge deal when you start looking at like mitochondria, when you start looking at energy, when you start looking at GABA and how it affects neurotransmitters and things like that. Why would you keep feeding yourself if it's blocking certain systems to be able to produce certain results that make you feel better? Because ultimately, when you feel better, you make better decisions.
Totally,
And when you make better decisions, you primarily get to the result a lot faster. Your performance is higher. Right. And it's all comes down to that mecca of life, energy. At the end of the day, you know, if we think about, and I know we haven't gone into fasting yet, but, you know, insulin sensitivity is something that everybody here should be looking up, especially when it comes to health.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about fasting, at least on my aspect, it's usually about, well, health is the paramount, right? So does it make sense to be healthy this way or this way? And that's how we always use the decisions of really prolonging what fasting does.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many studies now. The biggest studies right now is longevity. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Now and it's
Big push,
based on oxidation of stress and how much your body can handle. And the people that cannot handle oxidative stress, their lifespan decreases dramatically.
Yeah.
And that's how they're kind of like picking out like how long you will be able to live for is your stress levels.
Yeah.
So we got to think about what food does internally
Totally.
to the, you know, stress, not only talking about cortisol, but also like stress to the cell.
Yeah.
You know, oxidation stress is a big deal right now.
Yeah.
And that's a big study. You guys should look that up.
Yeah. And that brings up so many points we'll hit on with the fasting because, you know, the stress of the food, the insulin resistance, but the stress of the person. You know, what the hormonal environment that it's coming into, right? It's just
And I think sometimes too, like people will choose to eat on the go, you know, so right there, they're already in a stress state. And then they're taking in this meal that their body doesn't even really want. It's almost like viewing it as a threat as that food comes in, you know, and you look at the fast pace that we all live. And a lot of the times when we are eating, it's like boom, 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 boom. I mean, Kyle and I, we love to eat later and eat after the baby goes to bed.
Yeah.
Because then it's a different energy.
It is.
Right? It's calmer, and we love our family dinners too with the baby, But, you know, you get those two different experiences. And I think that's something to consider too, is when you are putting the food into your mouth, are you calm and relaxed?
Yeah.
Or are you like, I got to eat really quick because then I got to go do this.
Yeah. That's
Right?
a great point. That is 100% great point. It's living in the now, right? When you're grateful for the food. And I know this is like a whole different aspect, the spirituality of
we'll get
the
into that,
fasting aspect. But back in the day, that was when you hunted and you gathered your tribe and you ate, everybody was grateful.
Yes.
You know, it was an opportunity. Now though, food it's a dime a dozen. You can get it everywhere, but most of the time those people that are on the run, they're still hungry afterwards.
Totally.
Why is that?
Yeah.
You know, and I think we learned that a long time ago. It's not metabolizing it right away as the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates of what your body needs.
Yeah.
It's storing, because if your body is at a stressful state, chances are your body's thinking, I'm going to need to use this food, save it for a different time.
Yeah.
Right? That's usually what happens.
Totally. And great point by you guys. That was one of the first things. So the awareness, right? Like that's really the key to anything. And what Susie was saying, with not rushing to eat, that was one of the first things Dax, I remember from mind mapping when I learned from him. Even if you're not going to fast, if you guys remember this, like she just said, if you don't have time to eat the meal in peace, skip the meal. Like just follow that simple rule. If you can't sit down and enjoy the meal, don't eat. You're in the wrong part of your nervous system. So it's so
you just
simple,
had
too.
a really good video with a parasympathetic.
Yeah.
It was such a like I put it on repeat like three times.
Nice.
Like
That's
it
cool,
was.
man.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable aspect and concept that people should gather. That's the awareness of it.
Yes.
You have two different types of states of mind. So if you can get into that, it's tough because, like I said, I have compassion for a lot of these people that are on the go. They're trying to make dents in the universe, trying to make dents in their lives and become better.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how can we get the awareness to strike, right? And you got to kind of go internally.
You have to.
Externally is what you're looking for. You're in search of the results in the mirror, but what about internally?
Yes.
And if we could go internally first, it all makes sense. Because if your cells are happy, chances are your soft tissue's happy.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it flows.
Yeah. It's right on, man. That was the big change with this was once the change became from, I want to look like this, right? It was the outside-in approach. As soon as it became the inside-out approach, that's when everything for me, personally transformed.
By consequence.
That's it. Yeah, it was
By consequence, it happens.
Non-effort. You obviously we work out and stuff, but it's not like the stuff we'll teach you guys tonight. Like it's almost more than, I was trying to think of a name, the Pareto principle in finance, right? Where 20% of what you do gets you 80% of the results. The fasting will get you like 95% of the results. Like it's not. Mentioned before one of the comments that you got to work harder, you got to burn more. Mm-hmm. And you guys are all busy. You don't have time for that, right? You're not professional athletes, right? We don't need to force our body to do any of that. So we got about 12 minutes before we bring on a couple real life examples that clients that have been through this, friends that have been through this, and they'll kind of just give you their story, right? And I think one of them will kind of connect with who you are and where you're at in life, which is always good to see. Just to give you guys another idea too. So I love to eat. BK loves to eat. So before we started doing the Panda diet, Susie, tell them kind of like when I was doing the cycle diet, just so you guys have an idea of how much I love to eat. And I was tormented because I could only eat, if I was eating more than 2,000 calories, I'd put fat on. I would get fat, right? So kind of give a breakdown, like maybe of an eating example when we would go out, what a day would look like.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say one day in particular that sticks out to my mind was on your birthday when you were doing the cycle diet, right?
Which I'll explain in a sec.
And we were driving down to the Outer Banks for vacation. He started the drive with pulling into Dunkin' Donuts.
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
cheat
and
day. It's a cheat
getting
day,
a
guys.
dozen donuts.
Doesn't smash them, dude.
Smashed them.
Right
Okay.
out the gate.
I made a quart of homemade
Rice pudding.
rice pudding.
Yeah.
Smash that.
This is all before we got to Princeton.
Our niece is a Girl Scout, and we bought some like Girl Scout cookies and everything like that. Smashed about 3 boxes of those cookies, right? Crushed them, and we're driving, and I'm sitting watching this, and it's unreal to observe the volume of food that's going into his body. Then, as we're getting closer, we end up at Waffle House, which is his favorite. And if you haven't been to Waffle House, the waffles that they make there are so thick, so filling. One is a challenge, right? And how many did you end up eating that sitting?
I started, so we went in. It was packed too. It was my birthday, which you said, which I don't like attention.
He doesn't. I was just gonna say he does not like attention.
So I told her, I said, don't tell anybody. It's packed though. Like there's no only room at the bar, like at the Waffle House, you can sit up at the bar, where they're cooking. You can see them cook. So I told her, again, it's about 11 o'clock. You forgot the Butterfingers too.
Oh, that's right. Those little mini Butterfingers. Yep.
And so we get there, and then I say, I'm going to get 3 of the peanut butter waffles and some eggs and coffee. And the waitress says, well, she kind of did a double take. I thought you said 3. I'm like, I did say 3. And she goes, nobody's ever eaten more than 2. And I said, well, give me 3. So that comes out, no problem. Now they're starting to get like excited. Like, he did it. I said, give me 2 more. 2 more come out, did that. And then the manager came out. He said, if you do 2 more, I'm going to buy your meal. But again, we still had like 4 or 5 hours to drive. And I knew, I'd go into like a food coma. That's what would happen doing that, right? And so to just kind of paint the picture, guys, like a lot of you, I'd love to eat, and I can eat a lot. Like I would do good in competitive eating. So being in this paradigm where I could not eat what I wanted to eat, the volume I wanted to eat at, it's kind of, food is such a joy, right?
Yeah.
Such a joy. But getting into that, I can't eat like that normally. Like I could eat a lot, but not like that all day. But the cycle diet, which was appealed to me, one of the guys that coached me early on was you would do these deficits, get really lean, and to keep the body from shutting down and to keep the metabolism healthy, you would have these massive cheat days, like once a week. And the goal was really there's something called leptin, it's a hormone in your body, was to try to get at least 55 calories per pound of body weight to reset leptin. So I would go well over it. I did the most I clocked. It was in the 25,000 calorie range, which it doesn't sound possible, but I did it. And I could not, there's no way I could do it now, but it shows you, right? We were talking about the hunger, right? You be in such a deficit, the hunger's out of control, right? And then it's screaming for food. But then after I would do one of those days, man, I would be off for like 3 days. I would feel like just...
You were so tired.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And I just couldn't follow, and then I'd look for my weight to come back down. Let's say I put 13 pounds on overnight with that, wait for it to come back down to that to assess, okay, I could do it again this week. But then I would live for that day. Like it was my highlight of my week was cheat day. But ultimately I said, I can't keep doing this. Like this is not sustainable. It wasn't, but it kind of paints a picture. Now, one thing before we bring on Lisa, so Okan, just see if Lisa's getting ready, okay. Another thing that the mainstream's gonna tell you, right? And again, guys, I come from a bodybuilding background. It wasn't too much sugar, dude, it was just too much food. We'll go over that. It was too much food. Your body, sugar's not a bad thing. We're gonna go over that, guys. That's a huge thing. It kind of directly, that's probably a good way to bring up the next point is this, the carnivore cult, the protein pigs, right? I used to eat 400 grams a day of protein. You probably did something similar with wrestling or, fighting, right?
Yeah, I mean, just being a dude, man.
Yeah.
You're trying to get as much protein in and fill out your shirts as possible,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's...
Protein.
They say the same thing to women, though, too.
Yeah.
Protein, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If you look at, just observe what the messaging is to you guys. If you want to build muscle, what do they tell you have to, if you want to build, what macronutrients should you eat more of?
Protein.
Protein.
Yeah.
If you want to lose weight, what do they tell you should eat more of?
Protein.
Protein. It can't be both, which to me is so obvious. but it's like brainwashing. So wait, you tell me both? And protein is more anabolic, right? And people hear anabolic, they think muscle, right? But insulin, very anabolic. Now you can use it to the benefit to build muscle. A lot of times, anabolic stuff going on in your body is growing your fat cells, your fat storage. So protein is not something you need to go crazy with, guys, right? It's not something at all. I'm a firm believer that most people that are hardcore carnivore adherents have an eating disorder. They're scared of carbs because of what they've been told for so long, right? They're really fearful of it. And it's not, I'm not really even joking when I say that. Because again, I know I've been there before. But you have this protein need that's just jammed down your face. And people say, well, how am I going to get enough protein eating this way? Or, how can I put on muscle eating this way with not getting enough protein? You got to experiment. Again, just like a lot of this stuff, the fasting, one of my coaches he got me really into looking at, okay, excessive protein, do we need it? What are the health implications of that, right? So I'm not telling you to become vegetarian. If you are, that's fine too, and it works wonderfully with this. But there's periods of the year where I'll go vegetarian for, I've done it for up to a month. I've done it, majority of the week, especially when I want to cut down on body fat, right? So that's another thing. Like, what do you mean? So yeah, my carbs are way higher when I'm trying to cut down on body fat. So remember that one with shakes or for fakes. If you have protein shakes, just save your money. You don't need them. You don't need them at all. So let's see if we could touch on this before Lisa comes on. The next part, right, is fasting. There's a lot of people out there that teach this wrong, right? And I kind of wrote down the enemy within. We've been infiltrated. And what I mean by that is you can see people that are teaching fasting that are still connected to the mainstream diet world, right? When you fast, you got to just lay still. You can't do anything. When you fast, you can't break it with carbohydrates. And you might get overfeeding syndrome. So you can't eat much when you break it. And keep your carbs low the whole time. You're adding complexity to something that's not supposed to be complex. So I wrote, when somebody, guys, is trying to overcomplicate a concept, be very skeptical because they don't know what they're talking about. Now, you should be able to explain it to a third grader if you truly know the concept and you keep it simple. That's how your brain's going to form a habit around it. So before we go on, Okan, do you want to bring Lisa on the screen? Is she ready? So Lisa, guys.
We should go back to that after Lisa,
Yeah.
just on that
Which point?
not doing anything when you fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You're missing out on such a huge component of energy.
Yeah.
You know, because in 2020, remember that guy that was at the mastermind?
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, what do you mean? You did 48 hours, all you played is video games? He's like, yeah, that's all I do. I darken out the windows. You remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember.
Darken out the windows. I'm like, wait, what are you
hell is
talking
this guy
about? That's
talking
like
about, dude?
You need to be putting a dent in the universe.
Yeah.
This is when you write all your books. This is when you get everything done.
Yeah.
This is when you start really,
That's a great,
attacking that mitochondria.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do.
Totally.
Take advantage of what we're doing. So, but we, don't just sit in the dark.
Don't do that. We're going to definitely touch on that because you're missing the whole primal effect, of it, tapping into it. So, Lisa, can you hear me?
I can.
All right,
Can you
cool.
hear me?
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa. So, Lisa, guys, she's you on your way to pick up your daughter?
Yeah, she's coming home.
Cool. I appreciate you making the time for this. So, Lisa, I'll have her, kind of just give her quick story, when she came into our gym and then to do the Panda diet, what her history was at that point and the results that she's gotten. So, Lisa, you want to kind of just start out telling everybody about what you do for a living, your age, family life, and kind of go into your experience from there.
Sure. I'm 58 years old. I work for a pharmaceutical company. I'm a health and safety professional. I am not a nurse or a doctor, but I am a health and safety professional. I joined Newell Strength. It was 2 years ago in November, which is crazy to think. It's been 2 years, but it was 2 years ago. And I first did the Panda diet 2 years ago. It was January 2024. And that's also crazy to think it's already been 2 years.
Yeah.
But it changed my life. I won't lie. I was scared because I had never fasted before. I've tried so many different weight loss and so many different gyms, and I was in a yo-yo effect. I would lose the weight and then it would come back, and we're talking 10 years of this. So I'd gotten to the point where I was very lethargic, pretty depressed, and pretty upset with myself. So that's why I initially joined the gym. But then in January, I took another step, and I started with Kyle and the Panda Method, and I'm still fasting. I still do weekly. I'm actually breaking my 48-hour fast
Nice.
this evening. So I still try to do weekly unless I'm on vacation or something, obviously. And I went to the gym this morning. Haven't eaten since Sunday night. I was there yesterday morning and this morning. And I do the 24-hour OMADs during the week. On the weekend, I kind of treat myself a little bit. I do 18 sixes, or, I take Sunday kind of off. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've lost 40 pounds.
40 pounds.
And I'm in the best shape of my life. I haven't felt this good since I was in my 20s, honestly.
That's great. So 40 pounds, and at the age of a lot of women that really struggle with weight. And I remember too, you had some good blood work too, right? Within this process. Yeah.
My triglycerides vastly improved. Overall health improved. My oncologist is telling me to keep with it, that it's helping me out on that aspect as well. So yeah, it's all good.
And what would you tell anybody, Lisa, that because you said it, you had that fear at the beginning. Anybody that's fearful to try this, or women out there that are, they're professional dieters, what advice would you give them? What words of wisdom?
You can do it, and it's so much easier. It's so, like you said before, it's black and white. It's simple. It's not complicated. The first night of the Panda diet, we had that first call, and I remember you challenging us to that first 48-hour fast. And I remember thinking, oh boy. oh boy. But you were, said start small if you have to. Start with 12, start with 14, but you can do it. It's really simple. Drink the electrolytes, keep moving, and it really does help me think better too. Like I can focus better.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy once you start doing it, but you can feel the difference.
Oh yeah, big time. As a woman, do you have any insights on what Lisa said, or questions?
No, I mean, I just think that's amazing, Lisa. 40 pounds and being in the best shape of your life, that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's
great
what it's all
job, Lisa.
about.
That's amazing.
Thank you. The other thing is the bloating as you get older. I'm postmenopausal at this point in my life, and the weight gain and the bloating and all of that, the fasting really helped with that.
Dane asked Lisa, what time is your meal? Roughly.
It depends on what I'm doing. So if it'll range between 5 and 7:30, depending on how my day's going.
5 and 7, so it's flexible, right?
It's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
is part of the beauty of this. It's simple and it's flexible, and it can fit into really your life easily.
Yeah. And that's, the way you're saying it too. I always believe that a diet, right, for just using that term because we're familiar with it, has to be functional and sustainable for it to work, right? So you can do it forever, and you can do it in any setting. So I know you travel a lot too, right? You go on vacations. I know you were in Europe.
Yeah.
And
It's doable on vacation as well. I give myself a little bit more, leeway on vacation, but I've maintained the 40 pounds for 2 years, which
Wow.
without you know what it is? And I never feel deprived. I like to eat. I'm Italian. I like to eat. Right? And I never feel deprived. And with all those other diets, I felt deprived.
Yeah. And when you go on vacation and give yourself a little more leeway, because that's a big fear people have too, and a big question, like, what happens when they go on vacation and they maybe take it down a notch? What was your experience coming back into it, and what was there damage that was done on vacation? Like,
I mean, maybe once, I mean, I would weigh myself before I left. And then when I came back, and sure, maybe a couple pounds, but I mean, I get into the fasting and it's gone. I mean, the other thing with joining the gym and starting the Panda 2 years ago is that I eat healthier.
Yeah.
I'm, more aware of what I'm eating. Even on the other diets, I mean, I was also aware, but with the fasting, I'm more aware.
Yeah. It kind of happens organically, which is great.
Yes. Yep.
One of the ladies wanted to know if you're at your goal weight.
Well, that's a funny question, because my goal weight was, when I first started Panda, I wanted to lose 15 pounds. I needed to lose 30, really. And then I lost 40. And now I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe 45.
I said it keeps
So
shifting.
I'm very happy where I am, but after Christmas.
Yeah. That's great. So she's not at her goal weight, but not the way most people would think of it. Right? She won't way past it.
I'm happy where I am.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great, Lisa. That's great. Well, I appreciate you joining us, Lisa. Let you get back to the road and picking up your daughter. You've been
Thank
awesome. Yeah, you've been awesome. And appreciate you sharing that with everybody.
And I really appreciate you too. I mean, in the beginning, you gave all that guidance. I had a lot of questions, and I still have questions, but I do appreciate it. And I love Noel's strength as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lisa. Have a great night, okay?
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
So so we have a couple people coming on like that, just because, again, I think it's important that people say, oh, that was me, or that is me. Guys in the VIP or ladies, before the next guy kind of shares his little story, any questions on anything we went over, or any questions you want me and BK and Susie to hit right now? We'll have time for questions later too, but.
I know I saw one question too about electrolytes.
Yeah, we'll go over that.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have the electrolyte king here, BK, so that's going to be covered in depth, okay? Any questions for the VIP guys? Just type it in the chat if you got one, or if you. So is your approach any different for women than men? So that's a great question, right? And if you heard what Lisa was talking about, when I first started learning fasting in 2014, I was taught women can't do this as long because it's going to mess up their hormones. So that was what I taught for a long time. You can't fast more than 14 hours. And then when I did the first Panda Challenge, which was right after we got back from Florida that year, 2020, so pandemic hit. And then we ran it. And I had a lot of perimenopausal, postmenopausal women. Mm-hmm. One of the ladies came in, she said, look, I've done every diet. I just came off 1,100 calories for 40 days. I lost 1 pound. She goes, I went through menopause twice because she had a hysterectomy. She goes, do you think that this will work? I said, I think it'll work, but let's see. And she lost 19 pounds in 6 weeks, right? And so many women, too, the symptoms of menopause greatly get relieved. The breast tenderness, sweating, hot flashes, all this stuff. So, Christina, what I find is, if anything, sometimes the women have to be more aggressive when they're trying to get to where they want. And women typically, I think, deal with fasting a little better than men for the most part. A lot of the guys are babies, when they start with it. The women, if she wants to change her body and she sees that this works, I mean, they crush it with it. So, Christina, not really. It doesn't, and I like to start people on the same path, and then you adjust from there, right? That's the feedback you get as a coach. the biggest challenge. So BK, why don't you answer that one, and then I'll take the biggest challenge when you first started fasting like this.
Through the eyes of the clients, it's just the awareness.
What about you though?
For myself, you know what? I needed this in my life. So I was coming off a serious illness, and Kyle told me to do a 48-hour fast, and I thought he was trying to kill me. And I
You were in the
couldn't.
hospital, right?
Yeah, I was in the hospital. Just if it could have went wrong, it did go wrong. Passed out, woke up, tubes and cords in me, scared. And I have illness on both sides of my family. So once I, got released, I couldn't get my energy back. And it was right around 2020 when, right before 2020, right? Like in that mix of it where it was COVID or not, I didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. And I needed my energy back. And that's what I got. So for me, it's hard to talk about the challenges because I needed it. And you ever heard that saying, you never know how strong you are until you need to be strong?
Yeah.
And being your best when your best is needed most. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got into the fasting is I did a 48-hour fast, and it completely took me by surprise. And just think, I've been in this industry for a long time. I got my personal training certification at 21. I've been in a collegiate athlete. I've been, in the cage. And I was so curious of why this worked. What do you mean I don't get my blueberries in the morning, my granola in the afternoon, I was very dedicated to a diet. And it was almost like a mental shift for myself. And that's when I started digging into what's happened internally. So, but I can speak on a lot of my clients. The hardest part is just trusting and letting go of the rope. That is it.
Yeah.
It's letting go of the rope. And because we've been just think it's not even brainwashed. I guess it could be brainwashed, but it's more neurological than anything, right? Eating and comfort go hand in hand. So when we're bored, we eat. When we're mad, we eat. When we're happy, we eat. Just think about all the emotions that are tied to eating. So for myself, it's you start realizing you get exposed to how many times you just kind of mindlessly eat without being quote unquote hungry. And I think for my clients, it's just letting go of the rope and saying, hey, maybe we can just start off with this fast first and then start educating them. The more I got educated by Kyle, the more I felt at ease that this was the right way to go. And then the results by consequence and the performance was just through the roof. And at first I just thought it was like neurological, like, okay, like it's just a new thing, right? I'm going to need to go back to eating. And I mean, I do eat, I smash. I don't smash as much as Kyle because I've broke bread with this dude a lot of times, and it is impressive. It is impressive. Sometimes he makes me this meal when I eat with them at the house, and I'm like, damn, I better eat this, man, because he's staring at me, man. Like he just made this for me. But I think that's it. Is just the education, the awareness. Start learning about the people that have gone long durations of time without eating and what it does and how it reverses a lot of different diseases. And for myself personally, it was more of a health issue. So once I learned about the benefits of putting my health on a pedestal as opposed to just being big and strong, that just happened by consequence. So I can't speak on my behalf. And it was hard because it wasn't, because once I saw the results, it was off to the races, so, and I needed it.
Yeah.
So 48 hours couldn't come fast enough. Yes. But it was something that it was a domino effect of what we call awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I would say for me, because I didn't really know anybody doing it at the point when I decided to try it, was I thought it would work, right? But it's the unknown. It's like, well, what's going to happen if I go 2 days, 3 days without eating, and then just being excited. And that's why I think for me, I like starting people right out the gate. Most people just jumping into the pool with it because they knock out any of that fear
Yeah.
and they build confidence with what they're doing. Our Dino's going to come on in a second. So Nicholas, BK will answer that when we come back. How do you feel about sugar alternatives like monk fruit or stevia? Because that'll be great as far as BK's juice stuff here, and we'll kind of go over the story of that as the show goes on. Okan, do you want to patch Dino in? So Dino, guys, this guy's an amazing transformation story, right? And I think the more that you guys can see, success leaves clues. Yeah, yep. Yes, vegetarians, this is perfect for you. We'll talk about Anthony constipation and digestion as we go on. That's a big component we look at as far as what your body's telling us. Okay, and digestion's a huge part of that.
Yeah, gut health is everything.
It's
Gut health is the primary factor of everything, and that's where your neurotransmitters are. That's where your mitochondria lays. That's where your immune system either gets stronger or weaker, and these are all telltale signs.
Yeah.
I love that Lisa was talking about how she was bloated and how it relieved that, because I think a lot of people, not just women, get that bloatedness, and you think just gas is just part of being a dude. It's like
It's not normal.
once it's gone, you're like, wait, I remember always having gas and just thinking that was normal. And, you talk about a performance, something that alters your performance, not only just in the weight room or physically, but mentally. How can you get a lot of things done when you're, it's not easy, right?
Not easy, totally.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up, Dino? How you doing, buddy?
Hey. Good to see you guys on here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking the time. Just wanted you to share your story about, how we started together, and kind of introduce yourself first as far as tell us about your family life, what you do for a career.
So my name is Dino Rentoulis. I'm 47 years old now. I own a restaurant in the town of Clinton, New Jersey. It's a little Greek-American diner. So I met Kyle in 2023, about this time in December. Kind of struggled with weight loss most of my adult life. Really wasn't overweight as a kid. Gained most of my weight in my late 20s and early 30s. And I had just, really struggled. I tried all the gyms, all the diets, back and forth. I would lose 20 pounds, I would gain it. Just having some just major back issues, really, with the workouts, just going kind of a little crazy with the workouts and then throwing out my back and then regressing. So one of my really good friends and customers, Byron Brisby, had come in and he just looked great. He was just he'd lost weight, looking really, really great. And I know Byron for a long time, really great guy. Really respect him as a family guy and as a business owner. He's really smart. Him and his dad own a bunch of dealerships, car dealerships. And he was like, why don't you reach out to Kyle? He's like, I'm doing this fasting thing. And he's like, you got to come get his book. And I was like, okay. So I was down in Flemington and I got his book. This was in June of 23, and I read his book and I was like, all right, there's something here. And I tried it, and it was good. But finally in December, I was just still struggling, and I reached out to him, and I just needed some more support. So I reached out to him, and we went on together one-on-one in January. So at that time, I was over 250 pounds, and that wasn't even my highest. I bet my highest I was over 260 pounds. And it's exactly what he said, guys. He got me right into it. It was very simple. It was one meal a day. I went in on that Monday. I started my fast, my 48. I drank the juice. I walked 30 minutes outside every day. And those first 3 months, I think I lost 50 pounds. I can't remember. It was 50 pounds. I got down to 187 was my lowest.
Nice,
So
awesome.
I bounced between 195 and 200. It's 2 years later. I feel great. It's the best thing. Kyle is the best. The Panda Diet's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I own a restaurant. Like, I don't eat there all day long. I just broke my fast. I'm still doing my 48s, right? I like to break my fast between 5 and 6 o'clock. I like to try to eat early if I can. Now I'm doing more 7, 8 meals a week. Kind of that's where I'm keeping myself. But it's what BK said before. Before this, I had diverticulitis like you couldn't imagine. I was in like so much pain. I haven't had that in the last 2 years, you know.
Good
So
job,
once
man.
you clean yourself out and get going and get on the rhythm, I think the hardest thing is like, you know, and when I go on vacation, that's kind of when I don't like fast anymore. Um, but once you're going, that's easy. It's once you come off of it, that's like getting back on. But if you're implementing this, this is easy. Don't make it harder than it is. Tonight I ate, you know, my wife got ribs and chicken from the barbecue place and rice. There were some fries in there, some mixed vegetables, and a bowl of fruit. And that was my meal. You know, it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I'm so thankful to Kyle and his family. We've become good friends. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
That's great, man. And so you can see him and Lisa about 2 years into it. It's not a fad, right? You can't diet for 2 years. And so, Dino, what would you say? Like, much of what we worked on was the mind mapping stuff, correct?
Yeah, it's the discipline. It's like really trying to focus to that, you know, 1 meal a day, or if you're doing the white panda, 2 meals a day. You know, Kyle really helped me. He gave me this tip of those hunger pains, and they're tough, right? They come at you in the beginning. You're withdrawing from that sugar. That food's got like a hold of you, you know. But if you could just take your mind and associate that with like the feeling of fat loss, or you know, the feeling of like, you know, getting in shape again, that really helps it, you know. But it is all in your head, and you need to use that mind mapping. It's all discipline, you know, but it can be done. I mean, I literally own a restaurant. I am, you know, I serve 200 people today, you know, like you got to be disciplined, you know. And the one thing for me was, you know, like being at the restaurant, that's work for me. You know, it's what BK said. You can't be eating all the time, right? Like the hunger, like if you keep eating, you'll eat all day long.
All day,
So
all day. What was you know, your biggest mental block to maybe starting this, like going all in on it?
it's just like the whole thing of like the fast itself, right? It kind of like sounds like a big thing, right? It sounds like a big thing to go 2 days without food. Um, But once you actually go and you do your first one and you kind of get into them, it can be done. You know?
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah.
Living example. Well, great job, man. I appreciate you coming on, kind of sharing
Yeah.
your story.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get together for a walk soon, man. We gotta make that happen.
With me too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Good to hear your voice, Dino.
Yeah, great to see you.
Good job, Dino. Proud of you, man.
Yeah. Thanks, BK. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Have a good night, man. I'll be in touch.
Yeah,
Okay.
you guys too. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So we got before Renee comes on, the talk about real quick, BK, the sugar alternatives, right? Because I know that in the initial version of the juice you had, I can't remember, there was a different sweetener, but then you switched to this.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you found out about like stevia and monk fruit and
Yes, well, stevia and monk fruit, they're both they're natural. You know, monk fruit is a small melon, and it's 100 to 250 times sweeter than natural sugar. And stevia is from a plant. They both have 0 calories in it, and to be able to process them, you got to come from a good resource. That's why a lot of these manufacturers use sucrose. It's a lot cheaper alternative. But yeah, the combination of the two, you need a good manufacturer to be able to emulate some sort of flavor. And that's what we found is just by doing the salt in the water, and depending on who the person is, they respond a little bit different.
yeah.
But just coming up with a good formulation. But yeah, both of them have 0 calories in it. and just come from a good source. And you could research it because it's always how they process it as well. So if they put chemicals to it, we want to stay far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, for myself, it started with just a good resource, and just started doing the juice that was concocted from the cabinets. The sodium bicarbonate, the sodium, the potassium, all that stuff, and then just adding a little sweetener to make it a little better. And then we, formulated the juice, and we get into that later.
Yeah,
But yeah, for sure, the if you're looking to heighten your table salt that you're putting in the water, and you're making your man-made electrolytes like I was for the longest time, go ahead and put those in. It makes it the experience a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
At least for myself. For most people, they can't stomach just sipping on something that they got to plug their nose, and it's like taking a shot of Jack Daniels sometimes.
Totally, yeah. It's when we go over that part, guys, the sodium, the electrolytes, it's really fascinating. And it's something, even again, if you weren't just like don't eat, if you can't enjoy the meal, even if you're not fasting, you should be having a lot more sodium. That's one of the lies we've been told by medical and the food industry is keep your sodium low. It's all driven by big pharma, but it's going to be pretty cool when we dive deeper into that. So let's see, let's hit on a couple of things before Renee comes on briefly. So you're going to be told with fasting that your energy is going to take a dip. Remember, like that guy was telling us, like, oh, I need my energy. Well, you guys, just kind of examine, does energy only come from food? Like, everybody thinks that's the only spot to get energy. And when you first eat, you're digesting. Your energy is actually going to go down, right? So it's like you're going to see, and you heard Dino owns a business, 3 kids, high functioning. Lisa, the cognitive, BK was talking about. What have you experienced with energy when you fast?
Well, and I was going to say, going along with that, one of the biggest challenges that I've always had is the hunger pains, right?
Yeah.
The hunger pains come in, and I know Dino was starting to talk about that, and you have to catch yourself and reframe. And for me, as a mom of 4, I'm always battling with fatigue, right? So when the fatigue comes in, my brain will go to, oh, you're hungry, let's eat. That'll help you get more energy. And there have been a few times where I've listened to that voice and I've eaten, and it's been the opposite. I then find myself crashing and I'm tired. So I think, you have to really take a look as to not only what you're eating, but when you eat, how do you feel? If you are eating breakfast and you're feeling sluggish afterward, you have to start to really examine how your body is reacting to that food.
Yeah.
And is that really giving you that energy? Instead of having that for breakfast, what if you went for a walk? If you went outside for a 30-minute walk, you'd probably have a lot more energy than eating a bowl of cereal or whatever else it is.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. It's, with the hunger too, if this stuff is gold, right? If you remember this. When you guys feel hungry, most people associate that with the negative. But examine your life, or today if you felt some hunger pangs. But when you're hungry, does your energy go up or down? Like, what would you guys say? Does your energy go up or down when you're hungry? It goes up, right? So it's not a bad thing. We're supposed to feel a little bit of hunger. You don't want to be chronically hungry. And then the reframe we'll dive into a lot when we get to the mind mapping, because that's really the whole key, is the awareness to mind mapping and learning how to use that technology, the brain, the mind. Carla said it's getting harder to hear, just in case you need that, owner. But when you guys feel hunger, especially when you first start this, reframe it. Anytime you feel it, tell yourself, this is what fat loss feels like. Right now it becomes a positive in your mind all of a sudden, right? It becomes something that you seek out. So people, as soon as they feel hunger, usually they eat. And you don't need to eat right away, guys. Like, all the body fat that you all have, or I have, it's fuel, right? We got to give the body a reason to tap into it. So when you feel hunger, I'm telling you, that will change your life if you just start saying, good, that's what fat loss feels like. That's what health feels like. And it comes and goes. It's a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then it's gone. And then muscle loss too, right? That's something that people are going to tell you when you fast, that you're going to lose muscle. What's been your experience, BK, with that?
Well, I think it's a hard pill to swallow because you're always rebuttaling the mainstream, right? Because if you don't eat, you're going to lose muscle. Isn't that
Yeah.
like the main concept? But I'm
Yeah.
going to go back to the square root of everything. If you guys just look it up, and I cannot wait for you to talk about mind mapping because this is such a huge part of this. But the insulin sensitivity. So it's probably one of the most anabolic hormones that you do have once you tap into it. And I like the way that Kyle frames it as fast, beast, and feast, right? So those are the three concepts. As you know, when you do eat, your body is going to use a lot of energy to metabolize or digest that food. And your performance is going to get altered one way or the other, depending on what you do eat and when you do eat it. So I don't personally eat before I train ever. You know, my objective is to get my body as insulin sensitive as possible. That way, when I do smash and I do what do you say, feast, traditionally, most of those nutrients are going to go right into my muscle tissues. That's just how the body works. And it's in theory. Most medicine is in theory. If you talk to any doctor or anything, everything's in theory, right? But it's also logical if you know about insulin and insulin sensitivity and the way and the times that you can eat. But for myself, I haven't noticed muscle loss. I've only gotten stronger with age. And that's what I always tell people. Are you stronger or weaker in the gym, right? And sometimes they'll take those in-body measurements, and those things are, they're very intermittent, right? And depending on what you eat before and, where you're at. So, so usually you're stronger because your body is using what it's supposed to be using outside of caloric consumption, and you wait to consume afterwards, at least. And that's why they used to say, or they always say, drink a protein shake right after you work out, right? Because typically you're insulin sensitive after a workout. Now imagine just prolonging that till the end of the night. And some of you guys are going to eat, some people really like the midday and then they stop it around 5 or something like that, but I traditionally do go every night around 8 or 9 p.m. is when I eat my one big ass meal. And it's not one meal, it's one window. I go back and get seconds and most likely thirds. I eat until I'm not hungry anymore,
Full.
Yeah.
The muscle is a big concern for people, but you guys will see the opposite, right? You'll see the opposite with what actually goes on. Let's patch Renee in now. And Verone. Yeah, Renee. Yeah. What's up, Renee? Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. How you doing?
Am I just on the audio, right?
Yeah, I believe you are.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So Renee is cool, guys, because we graduated. We grew up together, graduated high school together. And it is no mistake, Renee so far, Lisa and Dino all did what at the end I'm going to tell you about the Panda Challenge, right? And they bought into what I was teaching them. They followed it week by week. So Renee, just kind of give a little background about yourself, profession, family, when we got started, that first time you walked into the gym and your results. Like, what was your goal? Talk about all that.
Yeah, Kyle, first of all, thanks for having me. It's definitely an honor to be here. So I am a full-time, working person with 2 kids, and my husband. So we have a busy family life as well as, being committed to a job for 40 hours a week. So there's certainly not, extra time just laying around. But I will say that what got me to this point was, prioritizing the kids over myself. And little by little, I got to this point where I hated seeing myself in pictures. And the summer before I walked into your doors in January of 2023, I really just didn't like myself in pictures anymore. I was hiding behind, the kids or hiding behind other people and just not even wanting to take photos anymore. So I had finally kind of had it and realized I needed to do something. And so, yeah, I walked into the gym and, said, Kyle, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm ready to make a change. And I really just committed to the process. I said, I'm going to give this a go as much as I can for the 6 weeks and see, where I get to. And the goal that I had set during that 6 weeks was to be able to fit in my wedding dress that October. So 10 months later, because it was our 15-year wedding anniversary. And I thought it would be super cool to be able to put that dress back on. I think most women dream that they could be able to do that.
Wow.
And it became kind of my why and my goal. Obviously, losing weight and liking seeing myself in photos again and all of that was part of it. But I think the heartstring that was really pulling on me was being able to put that wedding dress back on, which I did do, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got a picture of you at the end of the talk tonight with that, where she got into her wedding dress. And, however many years later, right? And
yeah, 15 years, long time.
15 years. Tell us, like, what results did you get on the scale? Because people are always curious about that.
Yeah, so in pretty much the 6 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that, I ended up losing 20 pounds. And also my visceral fat had started at a 14 and I've gotten it down to 8. So, pretty significant. I think during the actual 6-week Panda, maybe I got it down to about 10. So still a pretty significant, change in a very short period of time by just kind of committing to the process. So yeah, for as far as physical results, and there was also a lot of blood work changes. I actually, when I started, I went to the doctor and asked for a script to go get blood work because I was curious to kind of see how it would change. And although none of my blood work to begin with was abnormal per se, it still improved tremendously. Things like my triglycerides dropped. Since then I've gotten more extensive blood work done, and I have almost no inflammation. The inflammation markers in your body and stuff. And I really attributed all of this to the fasting lifestyle that I've been doing for the past 3 years.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. And talk a little bit too, Renee, because Renee actually then went on and did one-on-one coaching with me for mind mapping. Talk about your thoughts of the stuff you learned with mind mapping, or just that whole area of knowledge. Like, what did you find useful with that? How did that impact your life?
Yeah, so I think the 6-week Panda challenge opened kind of the spiritual and mental door for me to a lot more, which is why I then kind of embarked on the the coaching with you, because I really felt like I needed to think about and do more in my life than just the physical, which is kind of what got me into it. And doing the coaching with you and all of the mind mapping and just continuing to do the fasting through the process. There's so many things I feel like that helped me. One is I really started to feel the spiritual element and kind of a connection to myself, to other people, to just a lot. I really kind of felt that deep spiritual connection, and I was able to break kind of certain addictions, as far as like physical addictions, like to coffee, my coffee habit, but then also to being so reactionary and being able to like pause, right, and think about, like, if there's a problem in front of me, okay, how can I address this problem? What can be the positive, right, coming from this problem? I know a lot of times you say kind of what's good about this problem, right? And being able to control my emotions and things in that moment. And it starts first with controlling hunger, right, through the fasting and being able to separate yourself from that hunger. Yeah. And then as you go into the mind mapping, right, and we work together coaching, also separating from other emotions and things that were going on in my life at that time, and maybe appreciating and recognizing things in a different way. So I think the fasting was kind of the door. And then as we started to work together, more closely, it just kind of went to a deeper level.
Yeah, no doubt. It's the temple, right? But it's the gateway to the mind and the spirit. You know, that's usually how it starts. So that's awesome, Renee. Great job. I'm proud of you. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for everything you offer, because honestly, I feel like what you teach really changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways. So I very much appreciate you and everything you share through all of your different avenues. So thank you for having me and for all that you do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Renee.
Good job, Renee.
Awesome. Awesome.
4 points of visceral in 6 weeks.
Yeah. So
That's insane.
and
That's really good.
Yeah, that's something we'll explain to you guys. We'll dive more into the nervous system when we get to the mind mapping. When we used to have, so visceral fat, guys, is the fat that surrounds your organs. So if you ever see like a big beer belly, right? Like a big beer belly, that's visceral fat. It's hard fat that surrounds your organs, and it's a stress response because your body, you gotta remember, 99% of the stress, probably more than that we have, is mental. Your body responds physically to that. So it says, man, I'm under attack. So what does it do? It starts releasing certain hormones. It packs fat down around your organs to protect them from this perceived threat and attack that's coming to you. But it's all mental, but it doesn't matter. Everything your brain does is about survival. So when we used to have people doing, and we have fancy machines that do the visceral fat, pretty pricey machines. When we used to have people do regular diets, if they would lose 2 points of visceral fat in a year, that was like outstanding. It's like, wow, it went down 2 points in a year. Renee lost 4 in the 6 weeks. I've had as much as 7 points in visceral fat dropped in 6 weeks going through the Panda Challenge, which is like insane. But that tells you you're on the right track, right?
Letting go of the rope right there.
Let go.
That's letting go of the rope because, like you said, it's mental.
Yeah.
That visceral fat is sustainment around the body.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like releasing. There's the first guy that ever, the first coach I really hired to coach me in depth, Scott Abel, he'd always say, not what you're eating, it's what's eating you, right? And that's where the mind mapping comes in. It's, you guys know what good food is. You know you don't need to be eating 5-6 times a day, right? If you just listen to your body. But it's, what is the actual thing going on in your life that's making you react, make those choices. Mm-hmm. And it's not a lack of knowledge when it comes to food, right? There's something else going on, which you got to get to the bottom of. Okay, so let's hit on, before we bring our last guest on, Jared, he's going to give us a really interesting insight, and it's been awesome to see his transformation. He's here in person with us. Let's dive into the sodium, because this is a key thing, right? Like, a lot of people out there will teach fasting, and okay, you can just drink water, right? You can drink water. And that's not how you hydrate, guys. So BK, when he started doing the Panda diet and the fasting, he kind of said, wait a minute, the juice, right? Like he's referring to the salts. A lot of people, it tastes like ocean water, right? It tastes like ocean water. So he took it upon himself. Just let me see that right there. And it's been really cool just watching this from a business and journey perspective. He made the juice, right? And it's got all this cool stuff I'm gonna let him talk about, because he could talk about more of the science with it. But again, even if you're not fasting, this is stuff that you should be on. Like, people talk about supplements all the time, and they'll tell me or ask me, what's the best supplement? And I say salt, right? What's not a supplement? I go, hell yeah, it's a supplement. It'll increase your strength endurance by up to 20%. Okay, so if you were gonna make the juice, somebody just asked, well, how would you make that? It would be in 32 to 40 ounces of water, roughly, like the original formula. So that's 32 ounces. Would be a quarter to a half teaspoon of sea salt, baking soda, and potassium salt. So BK kind
Which
of
is like the new salt you're talking
the new
about.
salt, yeah. It's like a
NU salt.
Yeah,
That's
NU, yep, NU.
That's what the new salt is.
It's a sodium alternative, so it's potassium. So we'll put the okay. You can throw the link in the chat for the juice. But BK, kind of just tell us.
And you could send them Kyle's link.
Yeah, you guys will get a nice little discount on it. It's awesome though. The
Yeah.
kids drink it at the house.
Let me start off saying thanks for having me on once again. I'm Brandon Kelly, BK. I'm self-proclaimed the king of the basics. I do the basics very well and nothing extraordinary. All right. And I think I was Kyle's probably first client when first off, he got into mind mapping, which I'm super excited for you guys to learn about this. This is probably going to be the bells and the whistles of fasting, but also for mental clarity and discipline. So when I got into fasting, it was never about weight loss for myself, particularly. I needed energy. I need to get my health back. And that's kind of how I found it. I know it's a little rare for somebody like myself. Most people dabble into it for aesthetic reasons. But now more and more people are getting into it for the self-improvement and the self-discipline aspect of things. And what had happened is not only did I get my energy back, but then I became very self-aware of myself and contributing to others, because they say the secret of life is contributing beyond yourself. And I always knew that, but I never knew what that really meant until I kind of dialed myself in and had some self-development and looked at myself in the mirror and said, hey, how can I better myself? And then you could start giving really cool gems to people. And what was cool is next thing you know, I'm drinking the original juice, the salt water, and I'm giving it to my family. It's around 2020, right? There's a pandemic going on, and this is how you stayed healthy. I was so firm in my beliefs of saying like, hey, we have to fast. This is how we're going to beat this epidemic, or this pandemic that's going on, quote unquote, right? We got to be as healthy as possible. Health is paramount. So I was given the juice recipe to a lot of people, and there was some different, people would, have to go to the bathroom sometimes real quick, right? Especially women, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd have to dial it in yourself. So upon me, I took it, to the next level because I had all this mental clarity. I'm not even bullshitting when I say this. Like I was dialed in. I wrote a couple books. I got with some good formulators, and we formulated the juice for fasting. This was specifically driven for fasting. And what we learned is the electrolytes, right? What is electrolytes? And it's neurons, it's ions that are actually contributing to the body's internal electrical system, right? Not only just the central nervous system, but also the skeletal and the muscular system, So there's a lot of things that come with electrolytes. And what's cool is you start going down this rabbit hole. And back in the day, this is called essentials, right? So your body could not live a day without essentials, without sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and any a trace minerals out there. That's micronutrients. So you couldn't live. And they thought that our food was so abundant with micronutrients that you'll never be without. And then times have changed.
Yeah.
How we started, the food chain of how we're processing food, how we're distributing food, how we're manufacturing food. And next thing you know, these micronutrients, they're starting to see on a lot of these kids, ADHD, things like that they're very low in minerals. All right. So micronutrients, and just think about this, guys, when you do eat food, the macros, the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates, what gets pulled out of these foods first and foremost is the micronutrients. The body takes them first before it starts metabolizing these other foods for energy purposes or stored fat purposes, wherever your body is yearning. That's how they kind of work. So that's what we did. Nothing extraordinary, very basic, really good sodium chloride. It's Celtic sea salt, so it's got over 90 trace minerals, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. Now you'll see on it that it's not an abundance of sodium. You're not going to get the 1,000 milligrams right off the bat, which is what's called a subtonic approach. Okay, a subtonic approach meaning that it could dehydrate you. Now it is good. It's marketing, right? 1,000 mgs, because now people know that, hey, sodium's good for you. So let's go 1,000 mgs. Unless you're climbing a mountain, you're doing a triathlon, things like that. You don't need 1,000 mgs right off the bat. You want to be able to microdose those 1,000 mgs throughout the day. That's how it works. That's called an isotonic approach. Am I boring you so far? Is it all right? So the isotonic approach is, it's like if you were cooking a chocolate cake. Chocolate isn't just the number one aspect of a chocolate cake, and you just overflow with chocolate cake. Now it's, it's not as good, right? There has to be other ingredients, and the other ingredients that really make up an electrolyte are going to be the trace minerals, the magnesium, potassium, and the calcium as well. That makes up the electrolytes, and it all stems from what's called a sodium-potassium pump, which you're very familiar on. Now, for every 1 sodium that penetrates the cell, 3 potassium leave, and that's the negative and the positive ions. That's the connection that starts being made, and that's how you hydrate a cell. Okay, so back in the day, water was very, it was rich in sodium and rich in minerals, and it ran through sedentaries and all these different, clays and muds, and that's where you got these minerals. And nowadays, most of these water, you're depleted with all that stuff. So when the water hit, that created this electrolyte. So what we need is, everybody needs electrolytes, not only if you're fasting, but this was made for fasting in particular. And what's cool is there's 2 different ions in it, or compounds, I should say, and one is called nitrogen, which is it's just 2 different amino acids that are merged together. And when they merge these 2 together, it creates a nitric oxide effect. And that's really good for the blood vessels because it dilates it or expands the blood vessels. And most of us drink coffee or any energy drinks. That does the exact opposite.
Correct, yeah.
So it's really hard for nutrients to get through the blood vessels to the actual cell itself. So nitric oxide is a solid component for anybody. And when you dilate a blood vessel, what happens is really cool nutrients that your body already has within gets released and gets into that cell and hydrates it. But what's cool about fasting, it's not really what you take in, but what you get out. So when the muscles contract, it relieves a lot of the toxins. And that's what's, I keep saying that's what's really cool, but I'm very proud, and I should say I'm pleased with how this came out. People a lot smarter than myself helped me formulate this for fasting specific. And this is how I believe that I got my family, my mom, my daughter, my fiance, everybody through this quote unquote pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it could be just the mindset of things, but this is what you take. This is what I take. It's 60 servings. So we say, hey, 2 to 3 servings a day is perfect. And once you kind of get that craving of a food, you take this, because remember, earlier I stated, when you do eat, your body takes the micronutrients out of that food first, and that's what actually makes the brain feel fulfilled. So you're going down this road. It's not the food that really makes your brain feel fulfilled. It's actually the micronutrients, because, and now we could get into the science aspect of this, but there's something called GABA, and GABA releases these like feel-good hormones, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, things like that make you feel good. And when you feel good, you make better decisions typically, right? Yeah. And you stated before a little bit about like, hey, you have hunger pains and they come and they go. And just because you're hungry doesn't mean you need to eat, right? It's just like if you're tired, like who's not tired when the weather's, when it's cloudy outside and cold, right? But you can't just take a nap, right? Like, you go down, you bang out some push-ups. So what can you do? And ultimately, at the end of the day, electrolytes get the blood flowing. And just remember, guys, blood flow heals. You just need to get the blood flow moving. And if you're restricted because of food, because of inflammation, because of things that restrict these neurotransmitters, right? So the more you eat, the more inflamed you get. Even if you eat really, really good food, your body is going to become inflamed just the slightest, which alters neurotransmitters. Yeah. And that just means that your feel-good hormones are going to be altered that much more. So they're seeing a lot of like the kids that are ADHD, these people that have just, some illness that they've claimed for themselves, just giving them electrolytes, really good earth-derived minerals, has been a game changer for them. Not just prescription drugs, just things that come from the earth, right? So
It's amazing. Yeah.
that's my 5 minutes
Yeah, it's
pitch. I
definitely,
guess.
definitely, check it out because again, thinking about habits, you're only going to form a habit around something you find pleasurable to do. So people have an aversion to the salt taste, right? This tastes good. And like BK said, when you're, man, I'm hungry, but I've still got another 36 hours to go, right? You're getting the nutrient. That's what your brain is seeking, right? That's why how they make potato chips. They're devoid of nutrients, but they taste good. So the brain keeps, I'm going to get nutrients sooner or later. And you go through a whole bag. But so you just infuse yourself with this. Again, even if you're not fasting, right? Such a performance enhancer. I've never seen another formula like BK put together, and some of the science is beyond me, but I know what he's, I understand him when he's saying it. It's just awesome. So definitely get on that. It's a low barrier to entry as far as you're drinking something that tastes good, right? It doesn't taste artificial. It's got all those things. It's momentum, right? It's momentum.
Yeah, no artificial anything.
No.
All organic sweeteners, all organic, really good sourced minerals. Good source minerals. It is going to be just a tad more expensive than something else out there, but this is 60 servings as well. And just remember, the brain it wants to be satisfied.
Yeah.
So if you can make fasting, at least for myself, I had to sell fasting to a lot of my family. My mom used to tell me, you can't be telling people not to eat. She used to straight up be like texting me like, I just saw your post. You're telling people not to eat. You can't do that. It's like, no, I can. Like this is,
Yeah, it's the way.
Yeah.
Right. You can't not share it once like you said, if you're trying to help people, once you know that. So before we bring Jared on, we'll touch on a few things that based off some questions and then what BK was saying. So your gut health, guys. Like when I first started fasting in 2014, and it was really solely just for bodybuilding purposes. I was 8 weeks out. I decided to compete again, coming off a really horrific leg injury, and Devin had never seen me compete. So I'm 8 weeks in. I said, man, I really want to be in the best shape I've ever been in. So I'm always reading, and the guy was talking about stubborn fat, right? For guys, it's typically your lower abdomen, your love handles, lower back. Women, it's typically glutes and thighs. And if you ever touch those areas, skin to skin, like put your hand on those areas, they're going to be colder than the rest of your body. The reason they're colder is they have a very poor blood supply. That's why they're stubborn fat cells. And the first step in fat loss is you have to get the blood in, right? It's mobilization. So if you can't get the blood in to get the fat out, you can't lose the fat. Right? That's why a lot of people will diet. And man, they might lose weight initially, but fat's not coming from where they want it to come from. But anyhow, in that process, I was taking something called hydrochloric acid for digestion, right? It's your main digestive enzyme, one of them. And within a week of just doing like a 16-8, I was taking the pill. I said, man, I feel burning. And that was the sign that, okay, you're turned back on. You don't need it. Stress depletes your hydrochloric acid, guys. And what BK was saying about your gut health, your 80% of your immune system, the gut feeling, the second brain, 80% of your neurotransmitters. Even if you're eating clean and you're constantly eating, you're causing inflammation. It's not designed to digest food every couple hours. It's not. Most people, what I've seen, feedback and just kind of reading a ton and feedback, most of you on this call, I can guarantee you, probably have between 15 and 20 pounds of stuck shit inside of you. That's where the term full of shit comes from. But there's a cleansing process that has to go on. But it gets freaking gummed up in your intestines, causes all types of illness, mucus buildup. So you're going to see that your gut health, and then sodium chloride is a precursor for hydrochloric acid. Right? Like this all ties together, right? So it's like, it just makes sense. And this is the way we're designed to really operate when it comes to food. Now, before Jared comes on.
Can we just talk real quick about the digestive enzymes?
Yes.
So, guys, there's another really cool thing to look up is the role of digestive enzymes outside of just digesting. And once the digestive enzymes stop digesting, they actually stimulate what's called hormesis, which is like some sort of cellular stress, because it's like, hey, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been eating for, I don't know however long you're alive, but for myself, 45 years old, I've been eating 3 meals a day plus snacks for so many years. And that cellular stress is super good for us. It starts activating that hormesis and things like that. I don't know if you're going to go into that, but that's the body's way of cleansing itself out. And it happens with the digestive enzymes. That's what starts it, but it can't really stimulate that while the food is always being digested. There's a lot of cool things that happen outside of digesting. You just have to give your body the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And it's fairly easy, you know.
It is.
I mean, the concept is easy. I'm not saying for everybody not going a duration of time without food is easy, but the concept is easy. Hey, let's just pull our food back. Let's let our body start kind of reformatting some things, and that's when you get into that shift of fat, right, being used for energy. But some things have to happen, and you can't really do it if your body's always metabolizing with that digestive enzymes. Look that up. Digestive enzymes is such a crucial role in fasting.
Yeah, it really is. And to BK's point, you don't really enter a fasted state till at least 6 hours after you ate. You know, many times it's longer than that, but so just think about that. When you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snack, you might be getting an hour or two of fasting at the end of your sleep, right? And the couple fasting points, and then we'll bring Jared on before we go into the mind mapping and nervous system. You might find it's very common that you don't need as much sleep when you fast, right? And it's like, go back, like BK said, well, how's your energy? If your energy is good or it's improving, don't worry about it, because much of the sleep, guys, there's a lot of it's based in functional medicine. There's some cool stuff, but essentially your body has to detoxify when you sleep. Now, if you're fasting all the time, you're doing a lot of that detox, like BK talked about. So your requirement for sleep actually goes down. So you have more time, right? Because and just look at it from a practical perspective. Remember how much time I used to like food prep? Mm-hmm. Like I would spend like 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday prepping food for the whole week, right? And then, so if you were eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, let's say that's by the time you prepped the food and you stopped what you were doing, you ate, you cleaned up, started what you're doing again, that's about an hour time because of momentum. So if you just cut out breakfast and lunch, that's 14 hours a week. That's 60 hours a month that you now get back, and you're gonna have more energy, right? So just think about, that's the only thing you'd ever get back is your time. So there's like all these other.
A lot of financial gains on guys and ladies from fasting.
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of, they go to a different stratosphere with their mind, and they're able to push their performance to different heights than they're used to.
Yeah.
A lot of the feedback that I get is the amount of cheddar that they make, or just being able to get raises or think of different things that are outside the norm, because the awareness heightens so much.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like when you drive from point A to point B, you don't even realize that you're driving, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing that every single day, you don't think about things outside this bubble that you live in. When you fast, it's crazy. You kind of start sitting back and you get this peripheral vision. I always think about it like one of the guys in the coaching booths in an NFL football game get to look down and see what's going on, you know?
Totally.
But a lot of financial gains, and I can be one to attest to that, you know, because the amount of self-discipline it takes, and then all of a sudden the awareness heightens and energy just kind of goes through the roof. It's almost that momentum that you're talking about.
Big Mo. It is. It's you know, I always tell people now, fasting this way is like the best self-development tool, because first you got to start mastering that inner dialogue. We talk about mind mapping, right? And then that starts branching out. You start looking at everything like that. You start becoming more aware. Where's the opportunity?
Yeah, because well, distractions are our number one thing that we need to combat, right? That's kind of like
Yeah.
That's our biggest takeaway when we are trying to go from point A to point B, is try to navigate without those distractions.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're laser focused, I just see somebody that just said something about laser focused while fasting.
Yeah.
You know,
Huge.
if you can take away this habitual, it is kind of like somebody that's you know, withdrawing when you always have this urge to eat, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like
It is, totally.
it's almost like a withdrawal symptom.
It is.
So
Yeah.
if you think about it like that, if you're like curbing something such a magnitude like eating, what else can you curb? I mean, honestly, like that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. That food is a drug, right? It is a drug. People argue with me online about that. Usually the PhD types. I'm like, well, what's the definition of a drug? It affects your internal, biochemical, and hormonal environment. Well, doesn't food do that? It's a drug, right? And so when you guys are struggling with this, just realize that some of you, obviously there's addictions, there's going to be withdrawal symptoms, which with this usually are very short-lived. It's not like coming off like booze or anything like that. But last thing on the fasting, when I told you guys the pathway with the regular diet, metabolic rate comes down, hunger hormones go up, fat storing enzymes are upregulated, fat burning's downregulated. When you fast, long form fasting, it's almost the exact opposite thing happens. Basal metabolic rate goes up, ghrelin signals, hunger hormone goes down, fat burning is upregulated, and fat storing is downregulated. So it's literally the exact opposite thing happens when you do this, which tells you this is what your body's supposed to be doing. So I'm just going to have you take a break. We'll bring you back at the end. We're going to have Jared. You want to come over, buddy? So Jared, guys, has become a really good friend of mine in BK's. And he started, you know, the people I had on tonight, as far as, you know, friends and clients, they live locally. So, you know, we get to train together too. So what's up, buddy? Thanks for doing this. Good, man. Jared's daughters are actually babysitting our kids right now. So it's been awesome, you know, this relationship in many ways. So Jared, just kind of tell everybody, like, when you started, you know, working out over at the gym and we met, like, what was your background at that point? Where were you at in life? And then we'll go from there.
It was about November 2023.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I believe.
It's 2 years ago.
Yep. At that point in my life, I had just. Is that closer? All right. I had just finished going through like kind of a cloudy phase, like a push phase at work. I had switched careers. You know, recently before that, really just neglected myself. You know, but I had a financial goal. You were touching on that before, and I hit that. And when I hit that financial goal, like it was a size that we wanted to reach at work.
Yeah.
We hit that.
Sure.
And
It's
it
your own
felt hollow.
business.
There was nothing behind it, you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, that's not the goal. You know, I need to, you know, go inward, focus on me, and I know that's where, you know, the next gain or the goal is.
Yeah.
Internal.
Yeah. And you're 45 right now?
45 now.
Yeah.
So I was 43 at the time.
43. And what did you think when we kind of, we have a good friend, mutual friend, and I don't even think Mikey's how you started coming to the gym now, right?
No, it was Al, actually.
Oh, yeah, okay. So another friend. But when we started going over like the protocols for fasting and how to train, because you know, we train together all the time, you and I. Kind of, what was your thought process? You know, what were maybe hesitations?
Yeah, initially, you know, you have that fear of the unknown, right? I've never not eaten my entire life, so I'm like, how am I going to react to this? It sounds crazy, whatever. That's what I was honestly thinking. But I think one of the biggest things is you have to experience things sometimes to be able to comprehend them, you know. And I knew that. So with me, I've been good at my whole life kind of, once I make a decision, all right, that's what I'm doing, let's see what happens. So yeah, the initial hesitation was just that I never experienced anything. It does sound a little bit strange because you've only eaten you know, 4-5 meals a day your entire life. You know, I've done, you know, dieting before, did the macro thing, did CrossFit for a couple of years. So I was like, wow, macros work. Well, you know, but like you said, after 10 weeks, does it work anymore?
What happens,
you know?
yeah.
You end up on that seesaw.
Yeah. Well, I remember, if you don't mind sharing, like your first time you did a 48 or 72. what happened?
Oh, I compared it to, did you ever see that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper? Yeah. And I just had like this awakening where I'm driving, I'm seeing the billboards, walking in 7-Eleven, I'm like, there's nothing in here that's good, you know, and you just want to really shake it into people. Like, you don't realize, man, you are stuck. Yeah. You know, you're in a trance, you know. And it's a means of control, but it's an easy grab too, right? It's preying on people's, maybe not weaknesses, but you're predisposed to eating for comfort, you know, the quick grab carbohydrates because you can eat them, you know, look in 7-Eleven. Sorry, I don't mean to just say 7-Eleven, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Every convenience store, every fast
convenient.
food, every billboard is a sugary drink or, you know, a quick eat, a bag of chips, stuff like that. So my initial experience was outer body, I would say. You know?
Outer body. And your wife, Lisa, now who's actually coaching for us at Newell Strength now, she's now fasting.
Yeah, it's funny. Another one of my big concerns, I have 2 teenage daughters. So I'm like, how are they going to perceive this? You know, it's sometimes a little touchy with teenage girls eating and, you know, the disorders that could be out there. So I want to make sure that I was eating dinner with the family, and that was the meal that I wasn't going to miss. So that was pretty easy, you know, to understand. They had questions at first, too. You're not eating tonight on Mondays, whatever. I'm like, no, it's a thing. I'm trying it out, you know. I'll be fine, whatever. But then slowly, you know, my wife, she's been very disciplined forever. Never really had the seesaw. She would eat the same thing, the right amount, all the time. It was easy. But same thing, you know. Oh, you're not going to eat? That sounds dangerous, this and that, you know. And then slowly but surely, I never push it on her at all. And she slowly started doing 16-8, blah, blah, blah. She's just finished the 48, you know, earlier before I came here. And even, you know, oddly, Saturday, Alexa had her first track meet.
Yeah.
And she's been getting an upset stomach, like, you know, anticipating events like that. And then sometimes running, she'll cramp up. So she fasted before. And I'm like, you know, if you don't want to eat, don't eat. You know, if it's going to upset your stomach, like, you know, you're going to be probably faster with nothing in your stomach anyway. Try it out. See how it is. You know, if you have to adjust next time, adjust next time.
Yeah.
So it, you know, it does, you know, trickle over
Yeah.
to other people around you.
I think that's super important because I saw somebody in the chat before said you know, about your wife, and I get that all the time. Like my husband or my wife won't you know, won't do it or won't buy into it. But that's a real life example right there of Jared went through it. Lisa doesn't even have weight to lose.
None.
You know.
None.
So it's just slide it over. I think I need you to.
Okay. Talk more.
Okay.
Okay.
The so she bought into it. Now tell us what result physically since you've been doing this.
So I started, I think I was around 220 pounds. And right now I'm about 190. So somewhere around 18 or 19% body fat. I think I've gotten down to
I'll
in
pull
the
up a
last
picture where you're
fat
talking,
shredder was in the 3s maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
I was the first person or one of the only people to get into the 3s at the gym. It was pretty wild.
You got
What's
way
crazy
down
is I haven't seen Jared in probably a year, and he walked through the doors. I'm like, you're in fight shape.
I
Like,
heard
good
you
job.
say
Like,
that.
he says he's 189. You said right now.
Yeah, 189,
But
190.
he looks bigger than he was at 220. Like, you look
Yeah.
aesthetically like an athlete. You know, good job, dude.
It's pretty funny because when I was seesawing with my weight my whole life, my gauge would always be my suit. Right?
Yeah.
Like if I can't fit, I'm never buying a different size suit. If I can't fit in it, I got to go back to the gym, right? But I had to wear it recently, and it was the first time that my pants are too loose and my jacket's too tight. So
Get that
going
new
in
suit,
the right
man.
direction, yeah.
Get it altered, man.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah.
time to alter the suit proudly.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah,
You should
yeah,
be, man. You look great.
Thank you.
So if you guys can see that, can they see that on there? So you see, you know, definitely the before picture of Jared. Right. But now look, so I've got an updated one just to show you guys, like this is, and Jared could talk about how we train too. Now look, right, mid-40s. There's nothing magical. He's just disciplined with what he does. Yeah. So it kind of shows you guys like it's pretty dramatic, right? And not even from the weight loss, like you lost 30 pounds, but just look how the physique changed. So, you've had all those, and talk about your training, because you train hard, right? And that's, again, misconception we were talking about before is people think that, oh, I can't train, I can't do anything when I'm doing this.
No, I mean, I train 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of different things now. I do weight training 2 or 3 days a week, jujitsu twice a week. We do sprints. Yeah, as far as energy, I always train fasted. I never don't train fasted. And yeah, you can go for it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes on the longer fast, like the Indigo day 4,
Yeah.
it's hard. That's tough. But yeah, my second day, so Tuesday morning, I normally fast on Mondays. That Tuesday morning workout's the best workout of the week.
Yeah.
You're fast, you feel light, you have energy. You wake up hungry.
Yeah.
And I mean hungry like.
Yeah.
Not literally, like
Like
hungry.
stay hungry.
Get
Yeah.
after it.
Yeah,
after
like
it.
stay hungry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Jared's talking about this, right? The Indigo Panda. He did that. He's one of the few people that has done it successfully. If you've ever seen the white hat, the Panda hat, we don't sell them, right? It's you only get it by doing the Indigo Panda, which is a 2-week protocol, and he opted to do it in January, after Christmas last year.
My Masogi.
Yeah.
Right.
To talk about, you don't have to talk about the protocol, but it was 2 weeks. But it's like when I developed that, it was okay. There's got to be something that can really propel you into the spiritual realm with this, right? We'll talk about that in the mind mapping too. But why did you decide to do this 2-week intense protocol, and what did it give you?
Well, I did the online thing you did in the end of 2024.
Yeah.
The 2025 planning. And
Yeah.
I put that as my Masogi. And, I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do at some point in the year, and just tackled it kind of right away in January. It was just kind of to experience it. I didn't really have any weight to lose at that point or anything like that, but I never did it, and it seemed pretty difficult, and it was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean the experience there. That's what I would call it. More of an experience than a challenge. It was a deep dive. I'm a deep dive thinker too, so I was the electrolytes, the salt, the balance, the way that your neurons fire and all that. I mean, it was just everything was clicking during that. You're like, it was pretty awesome. It was a great experience. It was difficult.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
not
very
easy.
difficult. But, the more you fast and the further you get into it, I think the more you think about what you eat rather than just mindlessly eating, right? Like if you only have one meal to get in 9 days, you're going to, like, I thought about that meal, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What can I fit in this time? Because like BK said before too, it's not really one meal.
Yeah.
It's an eating window. I mean, I eat, I counted it a couple times, 3,500 to 4,500 calories on
Yeah.
some of these sit downs. And
Yeah.
I feel great. I mean, it's literally the best eating protocol and way to go about things. It's hard to even put into words how much better, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And you see, like Jared said, he eats. Like people always say, well, what do I have to do as far as calories when I do this? Right.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think about the quality of food. I think about eating like natural foods because I just picture it as like your body recognizes an egg.
Yeah.
It knows what to do with it. It knows how to break it down. It doesn't know what a protein bar is.
Yeah.
So like I try and eat a lot of whole foods. I don't eat whatever I want, but I eat a lot of, whole foods mainly, but whatever I want. There's no
limit. Yeah,
restrictions.
no limit.
No
Yeah.
restrictions. On the weekends, if I'm with my girls and we want to go out to dinner or we stop by Chick-fil-A, whatever, I don't care. There's nothing that's off the table.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's great.
Totally, man. Yeah, it's when I started it, I was still tracking everything. I remember still having to be in a deficit, but I started doing this, and I was like 2,000 or 2,200 calories, which was high for me as far not how much I could eat, but it was like, man, can I get lean eating that much? And by the end of that summer, I was still tracking 2019. Pretty much doubled that. It was 4K meals and 25 pounds lost, 10% body fat lost while I'm eating more. So The fake fitness experts can try to explain that, but it's not about the calories, guys. But the way you get your metabolic rate up and healthy is by eating more. It can go up or down 40%. Right? Most of us experience it coming down because we're doing these diets, not eating enough. So again, you want to have a healthy, functioning metabolic rate like Jared has. You know, he's pushing the meals, he's enjoying it, he's training hard 7 days a week, and you know, it's not a surprise to see that he's excelling in so many areas of life. I mean, you feel like it's connected, right?
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even, you know, it's hard to pinpoint anything when you're talking about the human body and like nail down on that one thing in a vacuum that doesn't affect everything else. Like, you know, you eat a huge meal of good quality food before you go to bed, your sleep gets better. Well, that improves like so many things down the chain. It's all connected.
Yeah,
you know?
then your energy the following day is through the roof.
Yeah,
What are you doing with
years,
that energy?
You know, yeah, exactly.
It compounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it carries on, man.
It does.
Well, any final words of wisdom you give people out there that are thinking about embarking on the Panda Diet path? But
Yeah, I would say don't stay away if you're afraid. You know, the simple calorie thing that Kyle talked about before. You have enough. You're going to be safe. Nothing's going to hurt. It's not harmful. Maybe a little bit difficult at first, but the gains are far worth the effort and the slight discomfort. You know, those hunger pains and everything, they move really fast. And then once you're through your first 48-hour fast, you're going to look back, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And then they just get it better and better, and then it becomes a useful tool that you can throw in anytime you need to. If you need to cut weight for a fight, you know, the week before, stretch it a little bit, whatever. It's a great tool, and it's a great way to live.
I love that he said a tool, right? Because a lot of guys that I know that fast, you know, they'll take a vacation and they'll go out and they'll do their thing, and they'll right away they're right back to doing a 48-hour fast, and they can utilize it at any time just to kind of reboot their system.
Yeah.
And it just dials them right back in. Whereas previously it would take days, if not weeks or months, before you can get back into it, because you would think, I messed up, right? Now everything kind of transitions the opposite way.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally, yeah. And physiologically, you're all messed up, you know, so you do.
I'll do it next week. I'll do it the following week. And then this is just like that.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
It's easy to build trust and faith in yourself that you're going to get back to it too.
Wow,
because
love
like
that.
you said, if you have a bad weekend, it's not like you're going to take a week to recover for it. One day, boom, that's all I got to do. Right back.
Faith is the glue of confidence right there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's spot on, man. Faith is the glue of confidence. And it is. It's one of the few things, and this will tie nicely into the mind mapping, where you're trying to transform your body or, you know, make significant changes in your life. But most people want to do more, right? Fasting, to me, is the only thing where you're doing less. So you're
more with less.
Yeah, you're doing less. We're not saying,
that's called efficiency and effectiveness,
efficiency,
right?
It's freed up so much time in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a business owner. You know, I went from getting home at 6 or 6:37 every night to being done comfortably by 5.
Yeah.
You know,
Amazing.
You don't have all this stuff running in the background the whole time. You're not distracted. It's game changer.
Yeah.
It is.
No brainer.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask Jared before we wrap this segment up. Remember when we were talking? So we always have great conversations. But again, he's an electrical company, and you said you guys use calories as a unit of measurement too, right?
Yeah, calorie, it's a measurement of energy.
Yeah.
Is what it is. So, like, most people don't even know that or don't think about that. If you look at a package of food, you're like, how much weight am I going to gain or lose if I eat this? It's like, that's not what that's measuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's energy. How much energy are you going to eat, and what's the quality of that energy?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And where's it going? You know, that's what you set up by the hormonal profile. But remember what you told me, just so you guys have a concept of how brilliant the human body is, and another reason why it doesn't need to eat constantly. You told me something about 10 calories, like a 10-calorie volt. Or
So calories, it's a tremendous measurement, actually. You hear like 1 calorie, and it seems like a little minuscule measurement, right? We need 2,000 of those little things per day to just sit in a chair. But 1 calorie, if you compress that energy to 1 centimeter squared, it'll cause a second degree burn.
Yep.
1.
Yes.
8, you're almost guaranteed to go to the hospital, second, third degree burns, and above that, you know, you're risking death.
Yeah.
That's
So-
just from releasing that small amount of calories
Yeah.
into a
That's
condensed
wild.
space.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not a little bit of energy. The body uses a lot of energy.
And think about how that plays into fasting like this and this eating rhythm where okay, you're taking in a huge influx, especially if you got a big appetite, but let your body use it, right? Let it use it instead of just, hey, next meal, next meal, next meal. It's like, you know, all this energy coming in and showing you just, again, how brilliant the body is, though, that it requires energy on that scale from time to time.
Yeah,
You know?
you talk for days and years about this stuff. It's so complex. We'll never understand it fully.
No.
Like you said, what'd you say before? It's a, you used the word before. It was awesome. I forgot already. But
With the body?
yeah, with the body, like not much is known for fact.
It's all in theory.
Yeah,
everything's
theory.
in
That's
theory.
it. Yeah,
Even,
everything's a theory. It's the same in electrical. We learn electrical theory. It's a theory. We don't know how this stuff
Yeah.
works factually.
Yeah.
Completely. You know.
Well, think about how much this one little minuscule calorie, so to speak, what it does to your organs to keep them living, your heartbeat moving nonstop, your
Yeah.
lungs, right? So when you think about 2,000 calories, it doesn't seem like a lot, but
It's a lot.
you can't even measure it really.
Yeah.
What's really going on internally?
No, not even, no, you can't.
Yeah, it's funny what you said about when people see the food and they're like, "How much weight am I?" It's like, dude, it's not what it is, man. That's how much energy is you're putting in your body,
Yeah.
Right.
and what type of energy,
Yeah.
and when you're putting it in your body.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Efficiency is everything. I love what you said. You used to get done at home 6:30, 7 p.m. Now you're home by 6, 5:30. Everything's done. That's why people go to that next stratosphere with their business, with their
Yeah.
performance, with whatever it is that they're doing, because it's such a self-development tool.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you just nailed it, Jared. Good job, dude.
And you even think about that, what Jared said, you know, when it comes to creating wealth, right? Because you have health, wealth, relationships. But even, and I know his business has grown year over year, but even if it didn't, and he's getting done 2 hours earlier every day, he gave himself a raise. He's making more money, you know, per time, right? So you just look at it like that. Like it's all connected, right? The
Time is way
relationships.
more valuable than money.
Yeah.
You know,
So
no
that
doubt
was,
about that.
yeah. Well, awesome, man. Any final words of wisdom?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try it.
All
I
right.
mean, I think you should experience it. You know, don't have too many preconceptions. Experience it. You'll be able to comprehend kind of more about what these guys are saying. They're on the right track. There's an easier way out there. You'll buy back time in your life, and it'll affect everyone around you. So
Yeah.
definitely give it a shot. They know what they're talking about.
Appreciate it,
Yeah,
brother.
man. Good job, dude.
We're going
That
to be
was
breaking
awesome.
our fast tonight. Susie, you want to come back on for the last segment? So, guys, what we'll do here, I know you guys had some questions on fasting. So we're going to go over some mind mapping. So hopefully you stuck around. Mind mapping, you know, there's some faith mixed within this because, again, the mind is the gateway, you know, to the spirit. And then we'll kind of go into how to start this if you're doing it, right? How to start it, you know, the simplified version. So if I ask you guys, like if I ask Susie and she knows how I love the mind, you know, mind mapping and all that, and that's when the first time me and BK met, he saw me do a presentation on this. It's always been something that I struggle with, right? So I sought it out to study it, you know, try to figure it out as best I could to kind of make me have more of the life that I would want. But mind mapping is all about, well, first, two things, right? It's about everything your brain does, I said before, your mind, your brain. The brain is really the physical structure. Think of the mind as like the higher self, is about survival. So everything your body does is about survival, first and foremost. The stress you have, again, your body's responding physically to that. And the root of mind mapping, when a good friend now, Dax Moy, taught me the foundations of this, it's about habit formation, right? And there's a science behind habit formation. And if you just start becoming aware of some of this stuff, you start getting more results, whatever area that is, whether it's health, wealth, or relationships. You start progressing with that. So with the mind, And knowing that, tying back to what we said way back in the beginning, it's about becoming more and more self-aware, which you have to do if you're fasting like this, right? Because we'll talk about demons in a minute, but this inner conversation that's going on, I wrote the other day, the goal is to keep the goal the goal. And the goal, really, with anything, is to be present in the moment, right? That's it. It's if you can do that, doesn't matter what the external goal is, right? It's like, that's it.
The flow state.
Yeah, flow stage, be present, fully present. And it's a fascinating thing. So Susie gets to, be my guinea pig with a lot of this stuff. What are your thoughts, like when you hear mind mapping, or how have you used it in your life, before we dive more into it?
Well, just like what you were saying, is it's the self-awareness, right? And just catching yourself and realizing that when you're having certain thoughts in your mind, right? Some are true, but some are not, right? Something that always sticks with me is, what's the story you're telling yourself, right? And so that's something that I always will say to myself. And especially too, when you go through the ups and downs, I mean, this time of the year can be a little challenging. It gets dark at 4:30. It's cold, right? So sometimes you'll catch yourself telling yourself that you're not happy or something like that, right? And I think it's just all about catching in that moment and seeing, okay, well, is that true? Or is that just something that the story that's going on in my head? And I think not only with the fasting, but that's where you've helped me so much grow as your partner in catching, especially as a mom, right? Because there's always those ups and downs through motherhood, right? Not only just, fitness, nutrition, but also there's days where I'm like, man, I'm killing it today. I am killing it. I am such an awesome mom. And then there's days where I'm like, oh, nothing's going my way. I'm spilling this and that's happening and that's happening. But, that's where all the work that you have studied with mind mapping and what you continue to help me with. And then I can also hold you accountable too.
I do,
And it's such a beautiful thing, especially in the world that we live in now. I think the mind is the key to everything.
It is, yeah. It totally is. You see, we use it with the children. It can be applied to anybody. So I've literally written like over 1,000 pages on variations or aspects of mind mapping. So we're not going to be able to hit all of that tonight, but this is the key, guys. Like, if you can understand some of these concepts. So the question, I wrote down to start with, what's stopping you, right? So what has stopped you in the past? What's currently stopping you? And what dictates your actions? Like, what would you guys, somebody type in a chat, what dictates your actions as far as the daily actions you take? Does anybody want to take a guess at that? Feelings, okay, that's a good start. Habits, what are habits though? Well, habits, feelings, fear, the outcome, available time, other opinions, mindset. They all come from the mind, guys. It all starts and stops with the mind. Now, two really useful tools you can use with your mind right away is, and your mind is repaired too when you sleep. I see Renee put sleep within there, so that's super important. But your mind cannot think in anything but pictures. Every thought you have is a picture, and many people are not aware of that fact because they don't assess their thoughts. But try thinking about the last meal you had, and you're explaining it to me without having a picture come to your head. It's impossible. The picture is first. Like, it's literally impossible. So when you use that clue, when you're starting to feel down or off, your brain, the next really cool thing I wrote down is your brain cannot ignore a question. How Susie kind of said, well, what's great about this problem, right? Your brain will come up with an answer to that. What's great about when BK got sick? Well, look, the juice came out of it, right? A friendship got deeper. Like, there's always something great that comes out of it. So you can ask yourself that to get yourself back on what am I focused on right now? What is the picture in my head? And that's what I'm talking about, the presence and self-awareness. If you catch it, you don't have to go into a full meditation. So, all right, let me just picture some happy memory I had for a couple seconds here, right? And you shift it out. So that is key. Now, reframing, like there's something called the open loop theory. So if you've ever binge watched a show before, the producers, they know the neuroscience behind this. They're going to leave you with the cliffhanger. And the brain does not like that. It does not like open loops. It wants to close that. So then you go on to the next show, even if that wasn't your intention, right? So that ties into the reframing. Reframe, what's great about this? Where's the opportunity in this? Professor says at jiu-jitsu, you only lost if you don't know why you lost. So even if you slip up on this, the panda diet, or whatever you're trying to work on, okay? Well, what environment did I put myself in? What was the trigger, right? So, and there's really like a formula, right? You have the trigger when you're talking about habits or habits you're trying to break or form. You have the trigger, then you have the action at the top of the pyramid, and then you get a reward from that. So you start assessing that. Now, somebody had said in the chat, emotions, that this is a key concept to understand, is that most people let their emotions drive their thoughts, right? But it's really the emotion was created first because of the thought or the mental image you had in your head. But then somehow, because we're not taught this, that negative emotion starts driving these pictures, right? And one of the first things Dax taught me as well, mind mapping, is you got different layers of the brain. Think of the animal brains and the human brain. Emotion and logic don't mix. So when you're emotional, logic's going to go out the window, right? You're not going to make as good decisions when you're negatively emotional. So it always come back to that. Anything you want to create, right? Think of those three buckets: health, wealth, relationships. There's 3-step process: your thoughts, which is your pictures, your mental images, your words, and then your actions. That's how you bring anything into existence. If you want to create a new body, you start assessing that. What are my thoughts? Are you taking time to journal and write stuff down? You're all philosophers, but nobody's ever told you that. So you have to develop your philosophy and get clear on it, right? Really start thinking about your thoughts. Like very few people do that. Take thinking time. So the inner dialogue, there's 6 different environments in mind mapping. Inner dialogue is the first one, right? That's the conversation going on in the head pretty much all the time. Again, think of the negative emotions. And I'm always learning new stuff about mind mapping just through assessing myself and you know, when I struggle, and then working with clients. A couple of summers ago, Matt, who coaches me, he had said at the end of the call, Matt's very intuitive. He said, "Can I bring something up to you?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, and this is on Zoom, right? He's down in Florida. I'm up here in New Jersey. He says, there's some kind of like demonic energy around you. He goes, "I could sense it. There's something going on." And I didn't tell him anything about what's going on in my mind. We were talking about other stuff that call. I said, "Oh," I said, "You're actually right, dude." And then I started really researching, right? And then the fasting and the mind mapping has brought me much deeper into my faith. So I started realizing these putting a face on these thoughts when you get them, that they were just demons attacking, right? They're demons entering my mind because I gave them permission to enter my mind. And once I put a face on them, it became much easier to deal with and to get them out of my mind. Instead of just, like we said with the emotions, just having this endless, man, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to get out of this. I'm never going to break through.
Well, because what's the devil's biggest weapon?
And they have it written down, man, the wedge of doubt. You know, it's the wedge of doubt. He plants the doubt in your head, and that's it. Doesn't seem like much, you know, and it just grows unless you do something about it.
Tell them about the vampires.
Yeah, the vampires. So
Tell them about that. Because you said just because you said you invited them in.
Yeah.
So tell them about that.
BK came by, like, I don't know, this is a little more than a month ago. He was out in New Jersey for a seminar. And we were talking, you know, smoking a cigar when he got there. And this is what I mean, too, it all connects, right? There's nothing, everything's meaningless, but then there's also nothing that's meaningless, if that makes sense, right? If you get it, you'll kind of just understand it, what that means. But if you look at vampires, so I love all that lore and mythology and horror movies. So if you guys know about vampires, like if you ever watch a vampire movie, if they come to your house, let's say your children are home, you're not home, but you've taught them how to deal with vampires, would you have anything to fear? And remember what I said with that? Would you have any fear if Chloe was at home by herself, but you told her how to deal with them? Why would you have no fear?
Well, because we teach her not to let them in, not to invite them in.
They have to be
because
invited
that's
in.
the rule of vampires.
Yeah.
Is they can only come in if you invite them in.
That's it. That's the
And
only way.
I think that is one of the biggest takeaways of mind mapping, especially when you started this segment off. You said everything is fear-based. That's how our brain and our mind is wired.
It's
for
yeah.
survival. So survival is fear-based.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to go outside the norm. You don't want to go against the grain,
Yeah.
right, of the people. Why? Because you'll be subjective to vulnerability,
Judgment, yeah.
judgment, right?
Yeah.
What happens? Your survival goes way down, right?
Yeah. It's very, very turned into the brain. And it's there's so many branches, right, that it could go from there. But when you learn to deal with it, and then, you know, if you question everything and play around with the thoughts, right? And fasting will open your mind up to that. You know, it will, you know, call it the matrix, whatever you want to call it, but you'll start to see through it in many areas of your life. And then you can't not see it, right? So if you want to stay in the comfort zone, then just be warned that you're going to open up. You're going to see through a lot of stuff once you start doing this.
Yeah, you got to get really good at asking good questions, because with good questions comes very good answers.
Yeah.
And the first thing that Devin, aka Susie, said when she came on here before even the segment was reframing the mind.
Yeah.
And why is this happening, right? Is it happening to me or for me? And if you could start articulating what's going on inside your mind and asking it them good questions, maybe the answer doesn't formulate right away, of course not, but you start driving yourself towards that answer just through standards and operations, and then especially routines if you're trying to change things about yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
No doubt. And, you know, if you guys look at actions you want to start taking to create this new health, this new body, nobody's ever succeeded at that without the mind, right? Without really mastering that, these big transformations. I know Gabe was on the call. Gabe lost 160 pounds, you know, has kept it off 3-4 years. And it's just further proof, right? If that's your struggle, we all struggle in one of those areas, health, wealth, or relationship. One of them is the one that we're supposed to figure out when we're here. And you could have a breakthrough, right? But it's not going to come without that. So if you now start tying this into the spirit, and even when they asked the Dalai Lama, I have a book on him at the house about the brain with him, and they said, well, you're saying the brain is everything. And he said, yeah. They said, well, then what about the spirit? He goes, you access the spirit through the brain. You know, it's your third eye is located right here, right? The pineal gland, which is, you know, a whole bunch of health conspiracies I won't have time to go over tonight. Like there's lists, right, of things that calcify that, right, and take away your ability to perceive. But when I was reading the Bible a couple weeks ago, we got a senior home with the ladies, you know, they're all in their 80s and 90s. And it's really good, you know, we read and just talk, and I'm still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. But one of the passages in Matthew said, anything but yes or no is from the dark side. So think about the panda philosophy, black or white, right? It's either you're fasting or you're not. It's rooted in the word decision, which is from a Latin word, but it means to sever, to cut yourself off from any other possibility. Because a lot of people will message me and say, well, how do I get started? I said, well, you just decide. It really is that simple, right? And then now, if you look at the mind mapping, when you guys leave the gray area, right, indecision on the table, let me see how I feel at 5 o'clock, you're not going to succeed. But when you take that gray area off and now it's black or white, you open up tremendous mental capacity, which further, you know, works with the energy boost you get from fasting. So you just got to remember stuff like that. Like if it's not yes or no, it's coming, you know, whatever you want to term it as. To me, it's the devil, Satan. And think about right? Any religious text talks about fasting, right? It's been around forever. And what is the devil in the Bible used many times to try to break people? In the Garden of Eden, the forbidden fruit, the apple, you know, Jesus fasting, dry fasting, 40 days in the desert. Have this piece of bread, have this water. Everything could be yours on this planet. So he'll use that to tempt you, right? So, and when you're starting to succeed, guess what? The demons are probably gonna get louder. So each day you got to go back and reassess. It's not like you just get rid of these thoughts and they go away forever. It's every day. I mean, BK, we're talking when he came over that day too. The Bible says 365 times in some form not to worry or not to fear. That's not a coincidence. That's one for each day of the year, because we're going to be tested every single day. And this is where you got to, again, catch it. I catch myself all the time worrying about something. Wait a minute. God told me not to worry about this, right? And that's the awareness, though, right? The awareness, so you don't get in this overly emotional state. Now, one guy, and as I've continued to learn mind mapping, you know, there's pieces I've put on it that kind of make it my own, right? You take something, and there's nothing new out there, right? And you just start making it your own, putting your own fingerprint on it. David Hawkins, Power versus Force, you know, really interesting book. And he went through, he's dead now, he's a doctor, psychiatrist as well. Figured out a vibrational frequency of different emotions. And the lowest one, absolute, you know, lowest is guilt, right? So this is on like an exponential chart, but guilt operates at like a level 10 or 20, where if you had like pure consciousness, Christ consciousness, that's 1,000. So think about, I wrote down like the diet dungeon, the food prison, food bondage, how your relationship has been with food, right? And you're trying to stick with a diet and you don't, and then you get hit with guilt. Now you're operating out of guilt. And you're trying to make good decisions out of that state, such a low frequency, right? But again, catching yourself and just looking at your patterns. So your brain is a pattern recognition machine. That's how they test IQ, your ability to see patterns, but it's prediction and response, prediction and response. So think about how much easier to execute fasting is, where, let's say in my case, the past 7 years, on average, slightly less than 6 meals a week. Compared to when I was bodybuilding, it was 6, 7, 8 times a day. But I'm going to work, I'm going back to school, all this stuff. If one little thing went wrong, prediction response, throws off the whole schedule. Then you start stressing, I gotta get this in, I gotta eat this fried chicken breast and brown rice and broccoli. Where with the fasting, you don't have that, right? You have more predictability. You know, hey, I'm not eating until my day is done. And I'm a firm believer in that. And after I wrote the Panda Diet book, reading some of the old fasting books, after the fact, the old timers would say the same thing. It was crazy just reading it. It's like, man, they came to the same conclusions that if we do it, that we come to. You know, where it's the food should be an experience, right? It should be a celebration. It should be a feast. In which ties into, guys, like you fasting got me and us as a family to really start praying before each meal. Because it wasn't, now it became something like, and I tell people this all the time, every meal I eat, I feel like it's the best meal ever. You know, so think about that mindset, right, towards eating, whereas most people just eat mindlessly, right? It's just checking off a box. Now, with that said, too, I do believe, like I said, you should not eat if you still have work to do, physical or mental. Don't do it, right? That should be a time to chill out, wind down, eat, and your day is done, okay? And part of the reason, so the ideal physical or physiological time for the body to eat is around lunch. But if you look at habit formation, you know, talking about mind mapping, how many people are going to form a habit around that if they have a family, right? They're not. What, are you just never going to eat with your family again? So that's why I recommend dinner usually. Fear, too. So we talked about that, these negative emotions, right? Because these are the ones that are going to really put you in a tailspin. Fear, worry, anxiety, overwhelm. If you guys think about the timeline of life, right, it's another thing that once you recognize this, and you recognize it already subconsciously. But once you kind of hear this, it'll change everything for you. But if you look at the timeline of life, past, present, and future, where does fear exist on that timeline? Right? If you somebody type it in the chat, if you have past, present, and future, where does fear and worry and anxiety exist on the timeline of life? Past, present, or future? So Megan says future, future, future. They're right. It's future. Now here's the thing, right? When I made this connection when I was resigning from teaching in 2012 to run my gym full time, I had to deal with a lot of fear. The second part of that question is, does the future actually exist? Like, what do you guys think? Does the future actually exist? No, it's always right now. Right, it's always now. So what does that tell you about your fear and your worry? It's just part of your imagination. You're projecting, right? So it's not real, right? It's completely not real. But you have to catch that. In my mapping, there's something called the anxiety gap. The further out into the future you think, the more your anxiety is going to rise. Think about that, though, what I told you about what the brain does. Prediction response. If you're thinking about next week or a month or a year from now, there's so many unknowns that your brain's going to go into panic mode. And this is why, like, the importance of meditation and stuff isn't to quiet your mind necessarily. It's just to develop the awareness when you're actually going through it, to say, wait a minute, I'm feeling this. All right, what am I thinking about? What am I picturing? Then you catch it, right? And you get back on track. Stress is always going to be the thing that knocks people off track, every time. And that's why we say mind map, the thing is not the thing. If you can't get this right, you're not going to succeed, like the mind, right? And you see I'm teaching you very simple terms because that's how your brain is going to grasp it, right? And that's how it should be, right? You want stuff that you can digest in your mind and put to use right away. The nervous system we talked about before, so you guys have an understanding of this. And this is stuff that, you know, in the Panda Challenge, obviously we go much deeper with all of these topics. Again, it all connects, but you got something called your autonomic nervous system, right? So you have the stress response and, let's say, relaxation. So the sympathetic side is fight, flight, or freeze. The other side, parasympathetic, is rest, digest, sleep, recovery. So if you're always tuned up, right, like even if you're just stressed, what do you guys think happens to your blood sugar? Does it go up or down when you're stressed? Does it go up or down? It goes up, right? It's a stress response. So your body releases sugar to the big muscles so you can fight or run. You know, usually freeze is a little bit different, but that's a super kind of unspoken part of the stress response. I'll talk about in a second, but it gets sugar out to the big muscles. So even if you're just stressed and you're elevating your blood sugar chronically because of that, what has to be released to lower that blood sugar? Insulin. So you can develop insulin resistance just through lack of sleep and stress, right? You don't have to be overweight to develop insulin resistance. And that, as BK said before, it's a root cause of every disease known to mankind. After your workouts, what do you guys think? Blood sugar up or down with that? Up. So it's right. Why? A lot of people think, well, blood sugar is going to be lower after I work out. It's a stress response. You're in a fight type of phase with the workout, right? It's supposed to be a stressor to the body. You're trying to cause an adaptation to that. Now, BK talked about before hormesis. That's a form of stress, but it's a low-level stress, right? It's not going to put you over the top. And the more you apply hormesis through fasting or training, cold water therapy, dry fasting, your body becomes much more resilient to death and disease. So you want to say, okay, how can I apply that every day? Well, fasting's so simple, right? And for most people, it's going to be much more doable than doing something like a cold tub, right? Just logistics or getting over the fear of getting into cold water. And it's great to do that, but fasting is really, you can think of habits. the old saying, complexity is the enemy of execution. The less you can do, the more likely you are to form a habit around that thing. Now, goals. This has been on my mind a lot because next week I do what Jared had mentioned with my coaching groups, the annual planning or goal setting. This time of year, people think about that. So think about like our oldest, Braxton, he's 10 now. He wanted to really start diving more into his YouTube channel. Like he's really into it. It's fun. So around Thanksgiving, he said, you know, I want to have 100 subscribers by the end of the year. So in a couple weeks. I said, good. I said, so what's your, you know, making him think about this. What's your goal? So I'm going to post every day. And he has. But think about this. A 10-year-old boy understood that concept, where most of us are taught about goal setting completely wrong. Massive action. Go all in. That's going to kill your desire faster than anything. So I tell people with goals, think small, right? Now with fasting, can you go an hour, right? Or you do the incremental fasting approach that we kind of came up with last year. 12-hour chunks. Just make it 12 hours. Then decide when you're calm, do I want to go another 12 hours? Can I go another 12 hours? And you can start stringing together this so you think small on that. Think of the weight you want to lose or what money you want to earn. That's an outcome. It's like a scoreboard goal. The daily process, that's a system you're going to follow, right? So you start thinking about how am I going to link this together so fasting becomes just a part of who I am. And if you do that, the outcome, you'll probably surpass it. Like Lisa told you, she wanted to lose 15 pounds. She's down 40, right? We see it all the time when this clicks in people's minds. And it's just a very important, always go back. I told Devin, we talk about this, think small, right? Because the tendency is, I got to do more. I got to fit more. No. What's something so low barrier that you can do it no matter what, right? And the momentum, then you start building momentum, right? And you start believing, oh, I trust myself. That's another topic too, right? Because a lot of people think, I'll kind of wrap this portion up with visualization and the power of that. But you don't have to love yourself or have great self-esteem to start making positive changes. Look at Bruce Springsteen, wrote most of his music when he was in a very depressed state. You look at our youngest child, Ainsley, she's 11 and a half months. She's going through the process of learning to walk right now. She's not doing that because she loves herself. It's not a concept in her head yet. It's just a progression, right? And she keeps trying. She keeps trying. It's not about having good self-esteem or anything, so don't buy into that trap either. And before we tell you how to kind of do the panda diet and the fasting, think of, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about Ainsley, the progression. It'll come back to me. But really think of that, right? Set these small things that you can do wherever you're at. Have a minimum daily standard for your workout. Might be a 5-minute walk. Well, I can do an hour. Maybe you will. But what's the minimum standard you're going to do no matter what, right? And fasting is, to me, a foundational just piece of life for us now because no matter what else is going on, I know I can fast. And it keeps me anchored, right? It's like it's connected, these invisible threads to all, other, self-development stuff that we try to work on. So really start thinking of that and you start chipping away. Oh, visualization. I told you guys, your brain cannot think without pictures. So visualization, I started studying it when I was in high school for basketball. I wanted to be the best basketball player I could be, and I really think I took it as far as I could possibly take it, right? The way I practiced, the dedication, but it got to the point where with school and all that and hitting the gym, I started getting into the gym, there was literally no more time left. I think I was practicing every hour I was not in school. I said, all right, there's got to be another way to advance this. So I went to the library, got a book by Dr. Dennis Watley, and he was talking about visualization. And he talked about the Italian Olympic ski team and how they would hook them up to electrodes, and they would record their brain waves as they went down the slaloms, saw how the brain lit up. And they taught them how to visualize, not for a long period of time. They might have spent a week, an hour a day teaching them techniques. Then they hooked them up and said, okay, now you're just going to sit here and we're going to record your brain activity. But now you're just going to picture yourself going down the slaloms. The brain responded, lit up the same exact way as if they were physically doing it. So your brain doesn't know the difference between your imagination. Think about your worry. That's negative visualization. But think about the implications of that if you want to make a transformation in your life. Right? Like you train your body. I'm talking about fasting, you got to train your mind and your spirit, right? It all syncs together, and then you start just becoming like this, force of nature that God intended you to be. So visualization is a huge thing, and there's I'm fortunate that my coach Matt is, he's like the best in the world at that, so I get to learn directly from him and really practice it on myself and teach people, because that's key. Like, that is huge. It ties right into the mind mapping, but you got to be disciplined with practicing it. So that's something I go over in the Panda Challenge. We're not going to do it tonight. But if you're going to start doing visualization, can you do a minute a day? Right? Think small and let the momentum build. So let's go over now how to fast, kind of wrap up the talk part. I'll tell you guys about the Panda Challenge, and we'll see if there's questions that we can answer for you. So how to begin, really, it's pretty simple as far as you have the juice, right? So the salt concoction, if you're going to make it on your own, or you get something like BK's Undisputed Juice. Because people always say, what can I drink during a fast? Your juice, we call it the juice, black coffee, and tea. Right? Now, there's people that try to get real hardcore. You can't have coffee, you can't do this. Again, these are people that are tied, in my opinion, to the fake fitness realm, trying to overcomplicate it. Okay, so you can drink those things, unless you're doing a dry fast. That's a different topic. Pick the time that you're going to go. So if you're doing the Black Panda diet, that'll be a 48 and then one meal a day. Right, a 48-hour fast to start the week, and then you go into one meal a day. It's not exactly going to be a 24-hour fast, because by the time you finish and start, if it was 24, and don't get too caught up in it has to be exactly 48 or 24. It's like, okay, I'm eating dinner Sunday night, I'm eating dinner again Tuesday night. I'm eating dinner tonight, I'm eating dinner again tomorrow night. But that'll flex a little bit depending on your schedule. If you're just doing the intermittent fasting, which I did for 5 years before this, like you're 16, 14, 18, 20, it's not really going to move the needle, guys. You got to get into the longer fasting, and you will grow to love it. Trust me, you'll feel so good that you'll miss it. If you're on vacation and you don't do it, you'll be itching to get back to it. Now, what to eat? So you got to keep in mind too, nutrition and fasting are two different things, right? They're two separate things. So you get people going, try to nail down your fasting lengths first. Get that to become a habit. Gain some self-mastery with that. It's a practice of fasting, right? It's not perfection of fasting, it's practice. And then what I teach is a lot different than most. You could load up with your chicken stock, which I did the first few years, chicken stock, cranberry juice, really trying to get some certain micronutrients like BK was talking about. But if you kept it super simple, you start with fruit, however much you want, whatever kinds you want. Okay, you start with fruit. Then you go into your main feast. Anything that came from the earth, try to prioritize that, right? You can do vegetables if you want. You can do, you don't have to shy away from carbs by any means, like white rice, potatoes of any kind, pasta, if you do well with that. So you get to enjoy what you're eating. Then you have your animal protein source, if that's what you choose to do, right? If you're vegetarian, obviously you're not going to have your animal protein. Not a big deal at all. You eat until you're full. There is a learning curve with this. Sometimes you're going to feel like, oh man, I ate too much. It's a feeling, right? You'll start getting used to your capacity. So your appetite and your hunger are different as well. Your appetite's your capacity to eat. How much can you eat? And that can build over time. But a lot of questions will get, I'm not eating enough at this. Well, guys, if you have body fat or weight you want to lose, that shouldn't even be a thought in your head. That's part of the old system trying to pull you back. Your body will take in what it needs. It will get the micronutrients that BK talked about that it needs. And you'll see over time your taste buds will change, your gut microbiome, and you'll start really seeking out those good nutritious foods. Like if you don't like fruit, trust me, you will grow to love it. Like it'll be a highlight. In eating like this, on the back end, I usually have like overnight oats made or something like that, or a healthy cereal Devin buys. And that's my dessert on a regular night, right? And it's there. I usually want it, but let's say I'm not satisfied from my meal. That's where a lot of people will say, oh, let me just have some cookies. Again, I wouldn't even worry about that at the beginning, but you start setting yourself up for success. You have the healthy dessert there ready to go. And eat until you're full, right? And then you repeat. And you start learning the process. But think of micronutrients. Like a lot of people say, well, honey and sugar are the same. It's just sugar. It's not even close, right? And sugar is not the devil. But honey, think about the micronutrients. Think about how good it is for your immune system. So you start seeking stuff like that out. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it tasty. Make it enjoyable. The 3 joys of food is you should be in joy leading up to the meal. So this is like mind mapping, right? Think about the nervous system. You should be in joy looking forward to that meal. Who are you going to eat with? What are you going to eat? Where are you going to eat it? You should be in joy during the meal. So if you're sitting at the computer trying to finish a work project, your boss is yelling at you, you're eating. Are you in joy during the meal? Are you enjoying what you're eating? And then you should be in joy after the meal. If you eat to the point of puking, which I used to do back in the day before I was really trying to put size on, right? I would push the limits. That's not enjoy after the meal. Now you're going to be stressed. Okay, so keep that rule in mind as well. And then all this, right, the adjustments we would make as far as nutrition and fasting nights is based on what's called biofeedback. Your energy, digestion, sleep, performance, mindset. I usually have clients kind of, is that changing? Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Because that's going to give us the clues to keep you on track. But ultimately, you want to land on, like when I work with people, is to find something that they can theoretically do forever, right? The first summer I did this, I was doing a 72 after the first week from April to end of August. But then I said, okay, am I going to form a habit around doing a 3-day fast every week? It's probably not, but I can do a 48, right? So that's what I mean. You find what you can do forever. All right, before we go over questions, owner, can you pull up a couple of those slides, a couple of the before and afters? They should be in order. So I want to show you guys, just again, you had some people on that talked to you about their experience. Where is it coming up, owner? Okay, so you guys can see it. So with that, Suze, can you just grab my computer right over there so I can see it? If you guys look at some of these before and after pictures of these people, these are real people that have gone through this, and all different backgrounds and stories. That's it. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. The all different stories and backgrounds. So let me just pull it up here. So you can see on that first page says success stories. You got the guy in blue, Andrew, lost close to 100 pounds. Mike. Gabe there mentioned, I don't know if he's still on, he lost 160. Lisa, who you guys heard, she's in the top middle. Phenomenal transformation. Then you have Amanda. Look at her transformation. The bottom right is Renee, who was on. She's the one that wanted to get back into her old wedding dress, which she did. The one that kind of looks bluish, it was just different lighting. That's 15 years after the fact she was able to do that. Then we'll go to the next page where it says results. So you got JB is the first guy. He was Division I Strength Coach of the Year, NFL strength coach, intern for him over 20 years ago, and we became good friends. When he first came back to head the Rutgers program, me and BK were actually doing a seminar at the gym that night, and he came to pick up a piece of equipment. And he said, what were you guys talking about? And Jay was 300, he's big, he's like 6'8", like 336 pounds. And told him about it. He started doing it the next day. In that other picture next to it, he's about 250. And he's 6'8", 57 years old, I believe. Anthony down, I don't know, 60 or 70 pounds. You just look at these transformations, right? And it's not anything magical I'm teaching to people. It's teaching them the way the body is supposed to work, right? But these before and afters, you look at most the fake fitness experts out there, if you took their clients and the before and after pictures they posted and went back in a year and said, let me see what that guy looks like now, they're going to look worse than the before picture. See it all the time, right? Because they're teaching them stuff that's not sustainable. We're setting them up for failure. So you just kind of look through it, Topher all the way on the right. He's actually a Hollywood actor, and he did that transformation in 3 months. So the results speak for themselves. Now I'm going to tell you guys about the Panda Challenge before we take some questions. Right, so I have a picture of Coach K here. You know, I respect the greatness. I never liked Duke, still don't like Duke. Big Michigan State fan, as I said at the beginning. But I want you to think about this as I explain this to you, what we're doing in the Panda Challenge. Like if you could get, and I have some of Coach K's books, but if you could, you know, you're coaching youth basketball, you get a book by Coach K and try to figure out his method and apply it, or you could bring Coach K in to actually run the practice, right? When you took in a lot of information tonight, and I'm very confident in telling you that what I teach with the fasting, the way I teach it, I'm the best in the world at it. So you can cut down literally your learning curve in success by 75% when you have somebody that's an expert in something guiding you through the process. So think about that too with the term coach. Most people don't know where that comes from. It's derived from the term stagecoach, which is the ability to get you from point A to point B, a spot you haven't been able to get to by yourself. So as the coach, like what me and BK do, it's really when you get out of the stage, get you back in the stagecoach, stay in there. Just stay on for the ride. Oh, let me go stay in there, get back in here, right? You pull them back in. So the goals of it, right? Clear up confusion, right? You might have a lot of questions still. You might have some doubt. Community, right? That's a huge thing. Other people going through the same thing, right? Now, if you could tap into those other people every single day, it's gonna accelerate you. I'll be teaching you guys a weekly lesson on Zoom, just like this, right? You have access to me with my cell phone. You'll never have to diet again, right? You're breaking out of the diet dungeon. And Bob, one of the guys on the last page, he's actually a lawyer, and he did some coaching with me, made a hell of a transformation. His quote, you know, when he kind of did a video testimonial for me, he said, what you teach is brilliantly simple, right? And that is the key. Whatever you're doing, it's got to be brilliantly simple for you to succeed. So what you get in the Panda Challenge, shark habits, right? So there's something we practice at the house, but we're going to be having daily criteria for you. Shark habits are just little things that you can do that are going to link to taking the bigger action of fasting. You got to wire this stuff together, right? Like, for example, it might be first thing I wake up, I have a scoop of BK's juice. Okay, now that's connected to a positive action. All right, now I'm in the fasting mindset. So shark habits, right? Daily system for success. Weekly accountability check-in. Adjustments, right? That's what I was telling you guys. You check in every week. All right, energy's going down, weight's going down. No good. We got to fix that. Weight's plateaued, everything else is good. All right, we got to look at that. Now maybe we look at the nutrition component. There's simple tweaks I make there too that are huge bang for your buck, right? And it doesn't involve you counting calories or any of that nonsense. Something you can do forever. Daily planning, that's going to be part of your shark habits. You get a copy of a couple things, like the new artwork, BK, that Okan came up with. So daily planner and a lot of mind mapping in this, how you plan your day. So you get that, and then you guys also get my anabolic fasting, okay, and dry fasting, because these are two things that we kind of go over in depth in the Panda Challenge. Teaching you how to do that, teaching you how you can put on muscle while you're doing this. So you get a ton of stuff. Now, what is it? It is years of frustration gone, pain, embarrassment, low confidence gone. Like, really think if this has been an area of struggle for you, what is that worth for you if you had to put a monetary value on it? to have confidence, taking your clothes off at the pool or on vacation, whatever it is. And the frustration, right? Look, you're doing all this work, but you wind up in the same spot. So it's 6 weeks. We start January 6th. Already got a good amount of people in it. We do cap the number. Normally $5.99, so that's $100 a week, right? And you can have something you can do that'll work for the rest of your life. And you will make more improvement in these 6 weeks than you probably have in the past 6 years. Now, you can split that up, and if we go to 8 o'clock tomorrow, Okan? 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock is the early bird? Yeah. So the early bird is extended to you guys. We'll send it out tonight after this. You get $100 off. That goes away at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Then it goes to regular at $5.99. So that is the Panda Challenge. I hope to see a lot of you within that and get to work with you closely and develop a relationship where I can do my best to guide you to where you want to be. So we have time for some questions. Let's take questions from the VIP first, and then we'll get to some questions from the bigger group over here. So Christina didn't see them, I guess. Christina, we'll send them out. I'll send out those slides, okay? But they're dramatic. We could send them out, Okan? Slides? Okay. So what questions do you guys have as far as, I think somebody had a question before over here when I went over, but after the fact, what's an ideal meal look like to break a 48? Just be mindful, guys, that when you first start doing this, when you first start breaking the longer fast, you're probably going to have to run to the bathroom right away. There's a lot of healing that has to go on in your gut. That goes away over time, right? But it'll feel like it runs through you sometimes. So just let me know if any questions come up here. Let's pick out a few questions here. So Tammy, if you're gone for a week, it's totally fine. I'll still work with you the extra week. But it's good because you get to learn how to do this. Even if you go on vacation, do whatever you want, you'll still see, because it's really teaching you how to use this in life, right? What do you do when you have vacations or holidays or you get sick, right? Yes, you will get the book if you're doing the Panda Challenge. Yep, for sure. Let's see. Yep, you guys will be getting the books, DJ. Bone broth is great. A lot of micronutrients within that. It's a good way to start, kind of ease the gut. So that's a good thing you can do. The hats, we got new ones coming in. So we're redoing the website too, but they'll be up on the website, or I'll post
We're
them.
asking about how to get the juice too.
The
Put
juice.
it in there.
So we'll put that in the chat, and then that'll be in the email too. We'll send out after this with the link. They get, 10% off, right? Yeah, with the juice. And how many flavors do you have now?
6 different flavors.
6 flavors. So we'll get that out to you guys for sure. Awesome, Ray. Looking forward to working with you. So, Stephen, it depends. How long do you recommend longer fast? Depends on what you're trying to do, right, in the timeline of that. Right, like people will say, I can do a 20-day fast, or can I do a 20-day fast? Well, you can, but what are you trying to achieve? You always got to go back to that. What are you trying to do? And if you do a 20-day fast but never fast again, you're much better off just following the methods that I teach, like the long form fasting week by week without having to go crazy with it. What's your favorite flavor, BK? They said with the juice.
Probably the dragon's blood or the blueberry lemonade.
I second BK. Dragon's blood is my favorite,
Yeah.
and our oldest, that's his favorite. Dragon's blood.
I actually like it's the plus one, but the watermelon.
Yeah, the watermelon, the grape, the
Had
plus.
some of that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, they're all pretty solid. I mean,
Very good flavors. Yeah.
Our members like the pina colada.
the pina. That's a big East Coast one.
Yes.
Everybody on the East Coast loves pina colada.
Yeah.
It's good, man.
We've shipped to Canada. It does take a little bit of finagling, but yeah, we get it in there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do that from the VIP, and then we'll hit some more of that. So let's get some of you VIP. We'll do some live.
Somebody asked
questions.
if it helps with heel and surgery, for sure, man. You know,
1000%.
like that's blood flow heals. That's what you want to think about when you're fasting. Blood flow heals, man.
All right, Reese, what's up?
Oh, no, nothing at all. I did put a question in the chat. It was just about
The
if
fruit.
you were to break your 48-hour fast, and you mentioned having fruit first is always a good way to start.
Yes. Yeah. And then,
Um,
yeah.
if you were to after the fruit, would you wait like an hour to have like a main meal, or is there any kind of time frame you should just to play it safe, like taking care of your gut health and everything like that?
No. So what you're going to find if that's new for you is that a lot of people eat the fruit and then they're full, right?
Yep.
They're like, that's it. I like to look at it as an appetizer, right? And there are certain reasons that I recommend the fruit first. But I look at it as an appetizer, finish that, and then kind of blend right into the main meal. You could take a little gap. What you don't want to necessarily do is start just expanding and expanding, expanding that window, right? So then that's where the learning curve comes in. How much fruit are you eating? What do you like? What feels good on your gut? So yeah, think of it like you're going to a restaurant, and that's your appetizer. That's a good way to space it. As far as like the timing of the meal, for most people, without stressing it, 90 minutes is plenty of time for them to have their feast, right? A lot of people, it's going to be less than that, but that's kind of the parameters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. How about Christina?
Hi, I have some questions. So basically, just to be frank, I'm probably 100 pounds overweight at this point. And so I have done some longer fasting for spiritual reasons. So I know I'm capable. I mean, I've done 16 at one point. So I have confidence in my ability to do like the 48 or maybe even the 72. I'm just wondering what you would recommend in terms of a starting point and then like exercise wise. What are your thoughts? I have some experience weight training when I was younger, but it's clearly been something I haven't done in a long time.
Yeah. So as far as the starting point, I think 48 is a great spot for people. I think that's kind of the money, and then you can build off of that. As far as your training, it's again, what is your minimum standard, and what is the goal, right? So usually within when I'm working with clients or the Panda Challenge, I have one of my custom workouts for that, but it should align with what you're trying to achieve. And you have to, just like anything we're trying to form a habit around, you have to find the activity pleasurable. So if you hate weight training, then that's probably not the mode of exercise you should be doing. We got to find something that you like doing. But I think if you do like hitting the weights a couple times a week, you don't necessarily need to go crazy with it. And do something every day though. That might be a hike, might be a walk, weighted vest walk, might be some type of martial art, might be cycling. Whatever it is, you gotta move the body every day. Like, that's important to do that. What was the last part of her question, owner? It was breaking up a little. Christina, I couldn't hear the last part of your question.
I don't know. I feel like you covered most of it. So
Okay. Cool.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let's see. So Michael's got a question. What's up, Michael? How you doing?
What's up, bud?
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I posted in the comments if you could read that for
Yeah.
a second. I've been fasting for a year and a half. I love it. I do 48 every week. I'm trying to get on the OMAD. I'll get about 2-3 days, and then when I finally eat, I'll eat so much I'm stuffed. I got a stomach ache. Was that something I'll get used to, or because another thing I would like to add, I don't eat meat too much at all anymore for the last year. I mostly eat fruit. I work out early in the morning, so I kind of like to eat around 10 and then 6 again. So if I do the OMAD and only wait until 6 to eat, I'll eat so much I got a stomach ache and I'm sick. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Remember I was talking about the 3 joys of food, right? You have to. It's the learning curve, right? Are you starting with fruit, right? Are you doing that? Because it kind of acts as a governor. It hits the stretch receptors in your stomach. And then going back to the mindfulness of when you're eating, like I used to eat really, really fast, right? Because I have 3 brothers, and I've slowed it down because if you're not mindful of it, right, we'll eat past that point, right? It's not like that feeling of satiety kicks in right away. Because a lot of people will think, man, I'm not going to eat again. I got to eat a ton, right? But then you assess, okay, I feel stuffed. Am I in joy after the meal, right? And so just, I would say you slow it down. Almost play the game of if you need to use a timer,
Yep.
this meal is going to take me 30 minutes to finish. And you can't finish before that.
I think you just answered it because I'm a real fast eater.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man.
I'm
right?
I'm a real fast eater. I gotta slow down the eating.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah, sounds great. But I appreciate you getting me on the dry fast, and I'll do a 48 dry easier than a water fast any day of the week.
Yeah, it's a funny
It's
thing.
crazy. Yeah.
It is. It is
Yeah.
easier. You got to be mentally ready for it, but it
Yeah.
is easier in a lot of ways
Yes.
than water fast. So that's great, man.
Okay, awesome.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Michael.
Oh, no doubt, man. I follow you every day, man. I love it.
Awesome, buddy. Where are you from?
Yeah. I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, you're where in New Jersey?
Cliffside Park.
Okay, cool, man. So
Where's your gym?
Hillsboro? So we're like,
Hillsboro.
yeah, we're in Hillsboro. Yeah, close to
Okay,
Princeton.
where is that?
You know Bridgewater?
Where's
Like Bridgewater? Familiar with
Okay,
Bridgewater?
that's like Central Jersey.
Yeah, Central. So we're like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we're 20 minutes from like the Pennsylvania border.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, but
It's
like
a little
Central.
far from me, but yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that's
Maybe I'll
cool.
come down and check you out one
Yeah,
day.
yeah, more than welcome. More than
Yeah,
welcome.
no, I loved it when I seen that you was from Jersey.
Yeah,
And I love it how you talk about these influences. They are really crazy out there.
they're
some of
nuts,
them.
man. They're
But
nuts.
yeah, I only like to follow you
That's cool. I
and a
appreciate
couple
that.
others. That's about it. Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that,
thanks
Michael.
for your time, man. Awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep, no doubt, man.
Okay.
All right, have a good night.
You too, buddy. Bye, Michael. So let's take a few more over here, and then we'll wrap it up, guys. So people on chemotherapy, so my mother has cancer right now. She's on chemo. The mainstream's going to tell you not to do it. I have a lot of different views on cancer, but I would say that it's gonna give you your best bet, right? Because BK read a question before to heal. Any animal in nature, when it's sick or injured, it fasts intuitively. You got to give the body a chance to heal, right? So if we're doing chemo, I get it really taxes the system, but it's destroying the whole body too. That's what I would personally do. Right? I would personally do that. You kind of gotta assess that. I can tell you what the mainstream is going to tell you. So let's see. Low blood sugar and low blood pressure. So with the blood pressure, I would say get on the juice, right? That's when it can have a positive impact. Water follows sodium. And then low blood sugar, you guys have, like, I don't know if you're true hypoglycemic or you just get symptoms. You have a hormone that kicks in, glucagon. Just like insulin keeps your blood sugar from going too high, glucagon keeps it from going too low. And that glucagon actually has to be elevated to lose body fat, right, to change our body. It's a built-in mechanism. So any of you that get those type of symptoms, actually take your blood sugar and assess it. See what range it's in, right? Because 99% of people I have do that, the blood sugar's fine. They're just getting shaky, right? They're feeling it. Remember, food is a drug.
That glucagon hormone is a precursor to a lot of really cool things.
Oh, it's great.
That's why all these GLP-1s are working so well, is because of the glucagon and what it initiates.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it can't be elevated if insulin's elevated.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yeah. 100%.
It's good.
We'll send it anywhere, man. we'll get it in, man,
get it
one way
into
or
you.
the other.
Yeah, he'll figure it out. He'll get it there.
Yeah, we've got it in Australia, South Africa. We've gotten it in just about anywhere.
Yeah,
Canada was the hardest one.
I
Canada
remember you said that, yeah.
was one of the hardest ones, but we've got it in.
That's good, man. He'll figure it out. He'll get it to you guys. They do a great job. Customer service. It's really awesome. Let's see. So it's GLUCAGON, glucagon. Okay. Yep, fasting is the way to go. I think peptides are good. It's something I'm starting to research more. Don't have a ton of experience with them yet. Whatever the retatrutide, I've seen it pop up a few times, but anything that says it's going to mimic fasting, it's not going to mimic fasting. Like, you got to actually do the fasting. Now, you can supplement on top of that with peptides and TRT, whatever it is that, the direction you want to go. But
That's a GLP-1 that they're referring to.
that one's a GLP-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are really stimulating the glucagon. That's where if you guys learn about the GLP-1s, a lot of it has to do with the glucagon, the hormone glucagon, and what happens when glucagon is initiated. And that's basically allowing the body to transition from the glycogen over to the fat, or just being able to minimize how much the blood glucose elevates. So if you could keep your blood sugar at a maintenance stage where it's not shifting up and down, your chances of being hungry and the appetite, it suppresses dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's cool about when you are on the fasting and a long fast, you don't get hungry. After the first 24 hours, you're pretty much golden. I mean, until like the fourth day. That's,
you get into the longer. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Let's see. Good job, Melanie. With BPC 157. Yeah, the peptides, there's a lot of, I think they're great. It's just I'm going to start researching more. I'm not sure what that is, man. The ecological formulas, trisalts. It could, Darlene, will fasting cure food intolerance? It's a simple way to find out, right? Simple way to find out. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. All right, let's take one more question because we got a feast to get to, made reservations. No, that's not what I consider breaking a fast, Frank. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Susie. Thanks, BK, owner, Okan. We got another special guest over there, Mr. Michael Becker, live audience. Thank you guys for the support, and reach out with any questions. I hope I see some of you in the Panda Challenge. And really, just thanks for taking your time. It's an investment, so thank you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're the trooper. It got down to 60 degrees in here.
It's freezing. I can't feel my toes. I can't feel my toes. That's why I came back with my scarf. Kyle was like, "I'm coming back." I was like, "Oh, it's cold."
Nice flow, dude. Nice flow.